Good morning, everybody. What's going on? Welcome back to Movie Mornings. I'm your host, Don Martino, and Spider-Man No Way Home has come out. I have seen it. My guest has seen it. We're excited to talk about it. It is the second biggest opening of all time, and this is done in a pandemic era. Such exciting stuff. I can't wait to talk about all of it. And today's show is going to be a little bit different. So today's show is just going to be a big spoiler discussion on the movie. So if you haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home, tune out now. So it would be a good time. But like, subscribe, hit the feedback, or leave feedback in the comment section. Share this with your friends. Hit the bell for notifications. Do all that. And today, once again, talking about Spider-Man No Way Home with me, I do have Miss Samee Ramirez. Samee, how you doing?
Hello, hello. Happy to be here again. We've seen it. I'm so ready to talk about it. I'm so ready. So excited.
Yeah, me too. I've been dying to talk about it with somebody on this planet, and we've texted, but it's not the same as like one-on-one like interaction, full-blown conversation on it. So yeah, I'm ready. I have a lot of thoughts about this movie, as I'm sure you do as well. I can't wait to get into it.
I got some things to say.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be
some
hard.
things I could say, I guess. Yeah.
One thing I'll say about this movie, not getting into the spoilers yet, but one thing I'll say about this movie is I think that whether you walk out of it and you love it, which most people are, and that's good, or you don't like it, you're going to have something to say about it. Like, it definitely leaves you with thoughts and things that you know, have to say. Like, the story moves you into that direction enough. Like, it starts a conversation for sure. So before we get started on the spoilers, let's do like a quick I'll start with you because we haven't really heard yours yet. I've already done this. Your quick non-spoiler overall thoughts on the movie. Where are you at with it?
So yeah, I really, really, really love this movie. I've been going back and forth. I'm kind of on a high on this movie right now, so it's very hard for me to be like, this is my favorite Spider-Man movie. It's gonna give me I'm gonna need some time to let it kind of sit before I can tell you that it is. But like, if you ask me right now, I'm gonna tell you that it is my favorite Spider-Man movie. Yeah. It was phenomenal. Every single aspect of this movie is phenomenal. And I've been saying this for pretty much this whole year. Marvel has really proven this to me. But I truly think these MCU movies especially, but superhero movies in general, are our modern mythology. They are the things that we, in 100 years, people are going to look back as a defining feature of what our culture was at this time. I think like superhero movies are going to be to us what like Westerns were to the 60s. It's going to be very much that same type of thing. And this year especially has really just reinforced that time and time again with Marvel. That because I was one of the people who said after Endgame, like, what's next? Like, what could possibly be next? And they basically have like given me the finger lovingly every single time and said, this is what's next. Like, incredible thing, time and time again. And and this movie is just kind of it's a very nice cherry on top, I feel like, for a great year in Marvel. And this movie was everything. All of my thoughts are spoilers. Everything I think to say specifically is a spoiler, but sure, it was everything you would want it to be. As somebody who grew up loving Spider-Man, my whole life, I saw the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire when I was probably like 6 or 7. And have been obsessed with them ever since. This was everything I wanted and more.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much second almost everything you say. It's hard for me to say it's my favorite Spider-Man movie. It comes in really close at the very least with Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 2, you know.
Those are also my that's the top 3 for me as well, is Spider-Verse, No Way Home, and Spider-Man 2. I feel like that's where they might land in that order.
But they're all such.
I don't know yet, though, for sure.
They're all such a toss-up right now, I think, at this point.
And I love them all for different reasons. Is also the thing, you know.
Yeah, but I will say this about this movie: I think that this is the most Spider-Man has ever been, and like that's sticking with the non-spoiler track here. That's really all I'll say about that right now. And I think that, for me, it also it does evolve the MCU into new territory as well. I think Shang-Chi did a good job at doing that as well, but like this really is like showing us this is the evolutionary point, in my opinion, for the MCU to go into a whole new spot. Like, and I'll get into the little bit of that probably toward the end of this whole thing, because That's kind of where we'll save the where's it going to go from here, portion, obviously. But yeah, no, I mean, I just absolutely adored this movie. I loved it, and it moved me in a way I don't know that an MCU movie's ever moved me, and probably not for the reasons a lot of people think. So, I mean, I can at least go with that. And Tom Holland gave probably his career best performance in this movie, and
Yeah.
that was another thing that I think is just
Did you cry
undisputed.
when you see it? If so, how many times? Because I did, and it was twice. I could tell you at what points, but when we get to them, I
cried maybe 2 or 3 times throughout this movie, and a little bit after I got home. So,
and I mean, like, I was like twice certified, crying out of both tears, not like crying.
Right. Like, this is for real. Like, this movie is serious. Like, it really knows how to get to your heart and just play with you a little bit. But we've done a non-spoiler review on this channel already, so enough with the hogwash. Let's get to the spoiler stuff. I wanted to start with you, okay? Because this was just everything to me. And the second time I saw it, I got goosebumps. I've
only seen it the once.
I've seen the movie twice, just so you know. But so I'll try to guide us through this, having the freshest mind on it, I guess. But this opening and the second time I saw it, it gave me goosebumps even more. First of all, I had watched Far From Home like right before going to see the movie the first time, so I had it so fresh in my mind, and the two movies just work together so incredibly well, because of where it begins with, you got Mysterio, telling, given the big reveal, that it's Peter Parker, and then the J. Jonah Jameson thing, and it just starts right there where Far From Home ended. So it was so cool to see this opening sequence with like this sense of urgency, and that Talking Heads song that they used with the swinging sequence was just perfection, because that song is just like unique. It's energetic. It has a sense of urgency. It's also fun. It's kind of got an epicness to it with the chanting sort of like lyrics that it has to it. It was awesome, and like it was almost like a music video, but it was like used right, watching these two like try to get away, and like you're like the whole time I was just like, oh shit, like, because this is like, it's fun, but it's also like you're kind of on the edge, right from the beginning. And it tells you like the song is like unique enough, and the way that it's used to where like it tells you that we're making a kind of unique Spider-Man movie here. Like, this is going to be Spider-Man unlike you've ever seen him before. I just
also
thought that stuff was great.
The first spoken lines of this movie that are new, I did notice, are literally Peter going, "What the F?"
Oh yeah,
and it bleeps out. But I was like, "Oh man, you don't start your Spider-Man movie with "What the F" and don't follow through for the next 2 hours." That hyped me up. I'm not gonna lie. That kind of him saying that, I was like, "Oh my god, things are coming." I think the things I want are coming.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It really does just set this tone. And can I give a quick nitpick, though? There's one little nitpick I had for this movie. And this movie, like I said, I love it, but by no means is it flawless. So one of my few nitpicks with this movie,
I got some nitpicks as well. Go ahead.
Okay, so you just mentioned it when he said "what the," and it cut away. That, to me, I hate when movies do that. Like, I don't know why. Like, just use a different line. Just say "what the hell."
Right.
Like, I understand it's PG-13 and it's Disney, but you don't.
They did the same thing though at the end of Homecoming. Homecoming ends with the exact same joke.
Yeah, but that one I was okay with because the credits rolled. Like, that was a different the deal. And here they did it twice. The other time was with Aunt May, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Right.
They did it a second time with Aunt May in this movie, and it was so weird to me that they just did this twice, and it was just odd. That's all. That they like, it was almost like it was written. The way it was played here was like it was written in the script initially, and somebody at Disney said, "No, we can't do that." Like, that's how it felt, and it's like, so just replace it in ADR or something. I don't know. I'd rather that.
Hell, say what the hell?
Yeah,
like
use hell.
Say rats.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I even think it'd been funny if he just said like "what the shit," which they're able to get away with. Like,
that would have been
really
funny too. Yeah.
So
that's personality. Because who would just, everyone would say, "What the F" usually. Oh, are we good? We good? Nothing wrong. Like that usually, usually you would say "what the F." So if he goes "what the shit," boom, character.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's a good character moment.
It
And
was right there.
it's a small
Yeah.
nitpick. Again, it did not take me out of it
Mhm.
or anything like that. It's just one of those things I heard. I was like, why does this It movie have to be one of them that does it? Because I've
Right.
heard other PG-13 movies do it where they just like, rather than replacing it with a word they can use, they just like do the cut. It's so weird. It's like
Mhm.
Spider-Man No Way Home, the edited version. You know, it's
Yeah.
just an odd thing. You know what I mean? Like the made for TV version or whatever.
Mhm.
But moving on from that, because it's such a small nitpick, it's not really an issue I had. Because when they're swinging through the, and I'm assuming you also enjoyed the sequence, the swinging part of it,
Yes,
and
very much.
it was awesome, and I
Rogers the musical poster.
that's right, they swung by Rogers the musical, which led
Yeah.
into Hawkeye, and then when they like get into the apartment, I was like blown away by John Watts' camera work
Yeah.
because he was like just tracking the camera through the apartment without cutting at
Mhm.
all.
That was pretty
I was
cool.
like, that's really good scene work. And like, even though like, and they're cracking jokes because it's like the happy Aunt May breakup thing, which was like
Mhm.
funny to watch, and I thought they all played the scene really
Yeah.
well. And you could tell it was like
They did.
something they rehearsed, because they had to get it all in one shot,
Yeah, yeah.
and so it just felt like actors working really hard to make this movie
Mhm.
work. So all that
And I
stuff
just
I enjoyed.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I just love too that Peter, like in all of this, once he learns that May and Happy are broken up, that becomes his number one priority.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
once he
like
gets
a
everybody to calm
distraction.
down, he's like, okay,
Yeah.
number one, what's going on with your relationship? Like,
And it's great
love him. Yeah,
because as a kid you would be concerned about that, right? Because he's
exactly.
still
That's been a
never
big
got
thing in your life. Yeah,
a clear answer from No Way Home. You know what I mean? Or
yeah,
not No Way Home, sorry, Far From Home. They
yeah,
really never clearly answered that for him if they were dating or not.
right.
So he's still kind of on his mind. It's like, let me
Yeah,
tie up the loose end here. And it's great that they did that through
mhm,
Peter, because it
yeah,
was kind of like, because you buy it, he's a kid,
mhm,
he's her nephew, so you buy that he'd be worried about that. And a
mhm,
lot of this opening stuff is just kind of the tail end of Far From Home. It's just like that
yeah,
added sort of thing to Far From Home. That's kind of how I look at the tail end. And I think one thing I kind of got right in a way, in our prediction video, is that this was going to move very strangely, like this opening act,
yeah.
and it
It was
definitely
quite
does.
clunky.
Yeah,
I do have to say,
but
it
I
was.
still think it was on purpose, and I'll get into why in a little bit.
Okay.
But I understand if you have a problem with it, because
Mhm.
while it was
The thing is, like, it didn't bother me because the second even though the first act was quite clunky, the second and third acts were the most phenomenal things my eyeballs have ever seen. You know what I mean? So it's like
right,
it didn't really bother me. I didn't
right,
even really think about it until after the movie was over, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. I guess the first like 45 were a little clunky, I guess." But
yeah,
you leave the theater, you are not thinking about
not at all,
the first 45 minutes of the movie.
not at
You are
all,
not.
and
So did not bother me
yeah,
really.
but
I did notice it, but
I
yeah.
figured it would be like that though, because and I think I think it is by design, and I understand why people would have complaints about it too, because while
Mhm.
I did want them to do something like it very much by design, I was like a little bit like, when I was watching it and it was happening in front of me, I was like, this
Mhm.
didn't get executed as well as I thought it would have. But
Yeah.
again, we'll get there. Like when the shit
Yeah.
hits the fan, it's the fan. So we'll get into that.
Ye-
We'll get into that. Which very surprisingly so. But yeah, I mean, the stuff that I think works the strongest though is the Peter Peter MJ Ned relationship
Yes.
is the stuff that just always works the best. It seems like
Yeah.
anytime you're getting a moment between the three of them, it's kind of like the pacing slows down a little bit just to let you enjoy it. So I did enjoy
Mhm.
that about
They're
it.
the heart of the movie.
Very much so.
The three of them together. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I genuinely think, well, hot take, but I don't think I've seen like a trio as strong as this since like Harry Potter with Harry, Ron, and Hermione, as
Mm.
far as like a friendship, trio. I think that they really
Honestly,
do have the
yeah.
best chemistry of a trio anyway that I've seen since
Mhm.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione, because like from Harry Potter, because
Yeah.
this is strong stuff between this friendship, and we're gonna get into all that. Like it really is very strong stuff.
Mhm.
But the fact that they're now kind of involved with Peter, and they can't get into MIT because of the controversy and all that, and I do like that they all kind of stick by him in the moment, and I think it helps build the bond. None of them
Mhm.
are going to say a word when they're being interrogated. I just thought all that stuff was great. I thought it was funny when
Mm-hmm.
Ned said something very incriminating, and he was just like,
Yeah.
I would like all that to be struck from the record.
That was when, I have to be honest, I never really thought Ned would turn evil, and we'll talk about it later, like if that's addressed.
Interesting. Okay.
But I never really was like, I don't think Ned's gonna go evil. I don't think the hobgoblin thing, I don't think that's ever really kind of come to fruition, if you ask me right now. But when he started like answering their questions, I got a little suspicious. I was like, am I wrong? Because I was like, Ned, shut up, homeboy.
Yeah.
What? Where in your brain are you thinking? I know you're under stress, but I'm like, dude, where in your brain are you thinking that you can just tell them things about Spider-Man?
Yeah.
It seemed a little suspicious, if you ask me.
Yeah.
That threw me off.
I love the sequence as well when and I have a specific reason for this. When Peter and MJ are walking into the school. First of all, I just like the way that they had the sort of slow motion shot on them, of like walking in. But like then the other thing that like really worked about that was the fact that Flash now wants to be Peter's best friend,
Right.
because he's Spider-Man. He's been obsessed with Spider-Man this whole time. And
I was really excited to see how Flash was going to react. That was one of the things I was really looking forward to.
I was so glad they put it in the movie, and it's one of those things they could have like been annoying about, and it didn't become like this constant thing that kept popping up that became annoying. It was actually like it makes sense for the character the way they did it.
Yeah. And it makes sense for him also to believe more in the idea, because like, you know what I mean? When he found that out, I feel like, if we're really going to analyze it, he had to make a choice of like, what do I love more, the idea of Spider-Man or being able to pick on Peter Parker?
Right.
And he was like, no, I love the idea of Spider-Man more. It doesn't matter if it's this kid that I like to pick on. I choose Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which again is very much the theme of this movie.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved that.
By the way, I love Spider Baby's guy too. He was funnier than hell.
Who is that?
The guy who was like, hey MJ, you gonna have his Spider Babies?
Oh yeah. No, I do remember that. Yes. I love also, while we're here, I love how everybody in the school there are different sides. There's some people being like, yeah, go Peter. And then there are others who are like, you murderer, like get out of here.
Yeah, it's become a total political
phenomenal
thing,
even with the teachers. Yeah, even literally the teachers, even like two of the teachers are like, all right, Peter, we made you a shrine. And then the gym teacher's like I believe Mysterio, bro, like you're a murderer.
Well, just like in real life, it became politicized like immediately.
Exactly.
And it was kind of cool to see it portrayed. But the thing, going back to the scene when they're walking in and then Flash jumps up, I love that the book was called Flashpoint, because that's a reference to the Flashpoint storyline, which really is like the first thing to like really open up multiverse in DC. So like the fact that they gave a nod to that was cool. That's cool. So
I didn't catch that. That's cool.
Yeah. His book that he wrote was called Flashpoint. It was awesome. But but yeah, you're right. They're walking. When he goes into school and you got the teachers. I like seeing them back together. It was Martin Starr, JB Smoove, and Hannibal Buress. Great to see all three of them back in this.
Yeah.
It was.
I didn't know that I wanted to see all three of them. This was a trio that I did not expect I would love to see in this movie, but I did.
Exactly, and that's kind of what it was like being played for, in my opinion. It was kind of like they were trying to tell you that it's like you weren't thinking about this trio, you were just thinking about the Spider-Men, So
I think bonus trio.
I think they played it for that, and those three guys are three of the funniest guys on the planet anyway. So like I just thought that they killed that scene. It felt like very improv to me. Like I don't know if they did, but like it felt that way.
It felt real.
Yeah.
It felt like this is literally how teachers would react to a student if they found out their student was literally Spider-Man.
100%. And so, just to, keep going over the broad strokes. I mean, that stuff was, it all plays very well. But then, obviously now we end up in this, Peter's in this pickle, and I thought the Doctor Strange lantern things, for some reason, when we saw it in the trailer, I thought that was going to be in Peter's bedroom. So to find out that it was in coffee house, I really liked. Like I was.
That's so funny though. Again, it just adds to the realness of the world. Again, like that we're getting ahead of ourselves, but the the Captain America thing on the Statue of Liberty, it's like, God damn it, we would do that. We would totally do that in real life. It's like incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I agree. And the thing I was going to say too about the scene was, MJ and Ned just being like, it's okay we didn't get into MIT, we're gonna stick by your side, also just added to the trio. Just how the strongness of that bond, it's so present in this movie, and again, it just makes it. And so I really enjoyed that, and just like setting up the coffee house set up something great later, which we'll get into toward the end. But then he's like, I gotta go see Doctor Strange, and it makes sense that he's gonna go turn to him in the moment. Yeah. And he goes to see Strange, and I like the dynamic between him and Wong again. Like, Wong is like, I like how he's like, he made it to a Sorcerer Supreme on a technicality, referencing the blip again to just make this universe feel all the more connected. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, that was good. Sorry, you were gonna say something.
Also, just real quick to go back, just real quick, that the part that really felt clunky to me was the kind of like getting into MIT kind of setting up to that. Really? Like the montage, there was like a montage with Aunt May where like she kept bringing him the letters, he read it, she brought him a new letter, and it was like over time. I thought that was a little weird. It felt very much like we just need him to get rejected, so we're gonna do a montage.
Sure.
I was like, why not start with they've already sent
I see what you're saying now.
Their MIT applications, like they already sent them in and they're waiting for a response, and then you cut like 10 minutes out of the movie that could just make it tighter, and then have the conflict arise once they get all of their rejections.
I agree. And let's run back to that because we forgot Matt Murdock, so we got to talk about that too. But
that was my audience gasped, and my parents were like, who, what is this? It was beautiful.
It was great. So like, let's talk about Matt Murdock.
That was the first like
and then
moment in the theater.
Yeah, for sure. It was great. Like talking about him, and then we'll move into, because I want to comment on the stuff you were saying too, about this, because I really agree with you. So like,
and again, I didn't hate it. It didn't ruin it. No, didn't ruin nothing. It just a nitpick.
Yeah, I'll get into that too, because like, so the Matt Murdock thing was great, but it was like 2 seconds. It came and went, which I was okay with actually. Like, it's fine, just so long as they use them in the future, and I think they're going to. So if you don't use them in the future, there was no reason to be in this movie. But otherwise, otherwise it does work though, because it's world building, and Marvel's kind of always done that. And I think it was there to be like just this sort of world building moment. Like, just to let you know, we got Charlie Cox back. He'll be back. He's secure.
So also,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's also spoilers for Hawkeye up until episode 5.
Right.
It's just spoiler alert. That, so there's a lot of rumors also that people are thinking Spider-Man might be showing up in this next episode of Hawkeye, mainly because of how this movie ends with him at Christmas time and the Rogers poster, and he passes by like the big Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center that they talk about multiple times in Hawkeye. So do you think maybe also, if that's true, do you think Matt Murdock also shows up maybe in Hawkeye? I think that's possible.
I've been thinking more and more that Matt Murdock is going to show up. I don't think Spider-Man will show up, however, but I've been thinking that Matt Murdock will show up. Yeah.
The Disney Plus would break.
Yeah.
Like in the first hour, because people would watch it, tell the internet, and then Disney Plus would break.
I think the way to go might be like a post-credit though. We'll see how it plays.
No, I think definitely like a post-credit that asterisks. I think in a post-credit scene, I think as well.
It just makes more sense to do it that way. I just feel like there's a lot still to tie up in Hawkeye, but we'll see. To me, like I just think you got so many storylines still up in the air with Hawkeye that I would like to see that be the focus. But because
I do also think like I've said this before, I think we really are building to a Young Avengers, or if not a Young Avengers, an Avengers 2.0.
Right.
Which I think will be led by like Spider-Man, Kate Bishop, Yelena Belova, like Cassie Lang, like these people. So maybe. Yeah,
it's possible. I think like, okay, so now like if you got Clint Barton, like he's in a fight with Kingpin and he's like getting bested, and then Daredevil pops in to save him. Different story, because
we love to see that.
That works for me, because then you've already got that set up in the Netflix series, and then that's letting you know, okay, not only do we have them back, but they're the same exact iterations that we set up in the Netflix show. You know what I mean? So that would be okay. I think that would be very cool. People would lose their minds if that happened.
Yeah,
but I just don't see it. I think it's going to be a post-credit, if anything. But to move on from Matt Murdock, because it's only a 5-minute
Doctor
spot
Strange.
in this movie,
Yes.
if that. But the scene was great. He caught the rock, and I thought that was super,
I loved
cool.
that.
Super funny. He was like, "How did you do that?" He's like, "I'm a really good lawyer." Good stuff. And so
I feel like, real quick, May and or Happy though knows that he's Daredevil, because I feel like Happy especially, I'm like, you're gonna tell me after all that you've seen Happy, you're gonna look at a man who can catch a brick like that and just be like, except he's a good lawyer as a response?
First of all, I mean, they kind of set up that the lawyer was it was purchased with Happy's money. Like, Matt Murdock was because Happy
I think Happy knew. But on the DL, I think he knows.
You have that. But secondly, if you're going to go by reputation, as far as what the Netflix show has set up about Matt Murdock, that's not the lawyer you're going to hire. If you have like the money that Happy does to hire somebody, you're not going to hire that lawyer unless you know like inside detail like that. So I would say that was
the thing I saw on the internet as well. People saying that like, oh, Happy, or some of them probably knew, because like, who do you get to be the lawyer for a superhero? A superhero.
Well, I could see that phone call going down. He calls Nick Fury, right? And Nick Fury maybe tells him like, I know a guy.
I actually know a guy.
I know of a guy. That would make so much sense. And so, I would say Happy at least had to have had some insight on who he was prior to it. Also, because there's a conversation, this might be looking way too deep into it, but there's a conversation that has to go down after I'm a really good lawyer. And Happy probably cleared it up, right? Like he was like, well, look.
I kind of couldn't believe they just cut away from that. I was like, there's no way these people just accepted that. There's no way.
Unless Happy knows.
Unless someone knew.
So there you go. Yeah. So I think you're right on the money there, actually. I think Happy probably does know, but it could be reading way too much into it. Who knows? It could have just been there to been funny.
Anyway,
anywho.
Doctor Strange.
Oh, I also wanted to comment on the stuff you were saying about the montage too, because I agree. And like, it did feel like maybe like 5 or 10 minutes was cut out there that could have been put back in.
Yeah.
But I did like Happy with the mask and everything. I have, I kind of related to that. I don't wear one of those, but like I do know people with sleep apnea, and it's kind of, hysterical to see them trying to talk through that thing. So it's that was good. Anyway, moving on though. So Doctor Strange, I think that this is where the movie kind of starts to really find its footing again, because because
this is where it becomes No Way Home, not just the end of Far From Home.
Right. Yeah. It feels like this is where the tag of Far From Home stops and No Way Home begins. I 100% agree with that assessment. And Doctor Strange is like awesome in this movie. Like he is, like from the very beginning I was like, this is pretty cool. They seem to have switched up his approach a little bit, I won't lie to you, but not to the point where I thought he wasn't Doctor Strange, just to the point where it was like I think that go ahead. Sorry,
real quick, have you finished What If?
No.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
We can talk about it later. No, but
we'll get to it.
But it's a valid question.
Yes.
Sure. But so to me, like, you could just tell that John Watts looks at Doctor Strange very differently than say like Scott Derrickson did. And like,
no, for sure, honestly.
Like I like this approach better. Like I hate to say it, because I actually love that movie, the Doctor Strange with Scott Derrickson.
No, I like that movie a lot, yeah.
Love it. But it's one of my favorites actually in the MCU. But this approach just felt, I don't want to say more comic book accurate, but like the strangeness of Doctor Strange really was out there in the open on this time around. And maybe that's also just because Doctor Strange has been doing this a lot longer now than
he felt like a complete person. He wasn't an origin story. It wasn't like he's in his first year. Like he felt very well situated.
He did. I like
his
that
position.
I like that approach.
Yeah,
it was good. And so that all really worked. And I love that line was not in there where he said, please don't cast that spell, and he winked at him. None of that was in the movie. Yeah. Which I was really happy about.
That was interesting. Yeah. I was interesting that they changed it like that, because the trailer makes it seem like he's going behind Wong's back. So to watch that scene play out the way it did, I was like, oh, okay.
It played so much better this way, for me.
Like, I liked it more. I agree.
Yeah. Because if he's just going behind Wong's back, I don't know how much sense that makes. Because it feels like there would be more of an argument before Wong just like, disappeared like they showed in the trailer.
Or Wong would have come back to fight Strange about it.
Exactly.
It would have been a big deal.
it would have been a much bigger deal had they played it to where Juan absolutely didn't want him to cast it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that. He just didn't want to be a part of it. He was like, okay, do
Yeah.
what you got to do. I'm going to turn my back. I like that
I
approach.
love that joke. That was one of my favorite jokes in the movie.
Do you remember
when
the
he's
party?
like, do you remember the party at Kamatage or whatever?
Yeah,
and he's
that's
like,
what it was.
exactly. I loved
Very good.
that was one of my favorites. We'll get to my favorite joke, but that was up there.
Also, this approach was more consistent with Wong and Strange's relationship thus far, I felt like it was. Then they showed in the trailers. The trailers have felt a little off, but here it worked. And even the spell casting was so different than we saw in the trailers, because I was so glad they did it. It wasn't like this rush thing. What about Aunt May? What about Happy? No, it wasn't like that. He's casting the spell to try to make everybody forget to, that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and it just it played so much better the way they did it here than you saw it in the trailers, and I was happy that they changed. It was different.
Because in the trailer, it very much makes it seem like he's just like, oh, what about MJ and Ned and Aunt May and Happy? And here it's like, no, MJ, and then he has like 30 seconds to think about it. Then he's like, oh, and Ned, and then he's like, you see his thought process, that it's not just like, I want this, I want this, I want this. It's like, this is a person thinking this through, a child thinking this through, and you can see it.
And I also like the Strange side of it too, because like as he's saying it, he's like, what about MJ? Oh, okay, yeah, I could make that work. Well, wait a minute, what about Ned? Well, pushing it, but okay, I can make that one work. No more. You can see it play out as I love. Happy? No, I'm pissed off.
That was incredible dialogue. It was. The more that I think about it, like that was some good dialogue. I forget who wrote it, the two guys who wrote it, but that was good,
so
bros.
So good. And I agree with you 100%. It was so damn good. And the it felt very Doctor Strange, and I like that Strange is like yelling at him after, because the spell completely fucks up and Strange is yelling at him, and I love that because like he pulls back, he's like, I see, as much as we've been through together, I still forget you're a kid, because he's seeing superhero, he's seeing Spider-Man, who's done some pretty remarkable things in the past. He's like, no, you're just a kid, you're gonna mess up. And which, Strange is like, and I like that Strange, even through, he's not a kid person. He's trying to like become one, but he's not, and they keep reiterating that throughout the movie. There's one part where he's like, this is why I never had kids. You know what I mean? So like, you keep getting reminded that Strange and the kid interacting, that's kind of what messed this whole thing up. Is the fact that he just wasn't thinking of him. Doctor Strange is like the cool uncle that wants to help you out, right, at the beginning, right,
but isn't really thinking it through.
And so he just didn't think it through. He was just the cool uncle. He was just trying to be that to him, and then it just turned into but even the cool uncle fucks up, without thinking about the fact that my nephew was just a kid, this could be a bad idea. I like how it played. But so moving on from there, so Peter's like,
and this is real jumping ahead, but I was gonna say this is real jumping ahead, but like at the end too, when they do the final spell, and the way Benedict Cumberbatch said the line where he's like, everybody who loves you, they will all like forget you, the way he said that really brought home the whole, like, he just wanted to help this kid. Like he knows what the kid has been through. He doesn't ignore it. He understands it.
He was trying to be helpful.
He's like, why shouldn't I help this kid? This kid has been through so much. What am I going to be the asshole and tell this kid who's been through so much trauma, partly because of things I've been involved with?
He said,
no, I'm going to tell him no.
He said as much to Wong, because he said, he's like, look,
and the thing is that,
he's been through a lot.
And throughout the movie, this is like John Watts. I feel like this was a very big thing for him and the screenwriters as well. But the beauty is that he doesn't have to say that. You don't have to have a monologue where Strange and Wong sit down and Strange literally says all of these words. You get it through like subtext. You get it through the looks. You get it through the way he says lines. You get it through little specific word choices here and there and things. Like that's art, that's storytelling, that's cinema, if I dare say so myself.
I agree. So Peter, because Strange says, it was hysterical, you came to me to cast a spell and you didn't even think to ask if they could reconsider.
Call?
And he was like, no, and then you just see Peter get shut out of the door, and it was like, that's fantastic. That stuff worked it. But then, so what does Peter do? He's going to go talk to the MIT lady. So he goes over to the bridge. Big first reveal, right? And he's talking to her to reconsider, and Doc Ock shows up.
Yeah. I got a quick grievance real quick. Nothing about the movie. But the second we see him get on the bridge, there was another stir like in my theater in the crowd. And started to get like everybody like sat up and did everything because we all knew what was coming.
Yeah.
We knew immediately that this was the scene from the trailer where the villains show up.
Yeah.
And I just wish God, I hate the internet sometimes. I say that while being on it most of the time. But like sometimes I'm like, imagine really if we thought this movie was just a civil war between Strange and Spider-Man. And that's what we all 100% believed in, had no idea anything else was going to happen. And then this bridge scene happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been robbed. Like the internet, sometimes this is what I mean. Like, is the internet always good?
Yeah.
I don't know, because that was raw. I felt robbed a little bit. It was still awesome.
It was.
But I immediately thought about like, God, I hate that the second I saw him go on the bridge, I was ready and everybody else in this theater got ready.
Yeah.
I hated that. I hated that in the theater, that energy that we created. But I mean, the scene was incredible.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to say that though, because my theater did cheer when this happened. So I don't know. Like
everyone cheered and everything.
Okay, that's
stuff.
good. That's good.
Yeah, they still cheered. It was just like the moment he got on the bridge before the villains had even appeared, everybody like, you know what I mean? There was just everybody like stood up, like sat up and got ready.
Yeah,
basically. Put their popcorn down, like told their friend to get ready. And you could feel it. You could feel like a stir, like something's coming.
Yeah. That was one of the...
I hated that though. I mean, I loved it, but I also was like...
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying.
It should have all came in a big rush when you see Doc Ock show up.
I agree. But I think it's followed up by some great stuff though. Like I get what you're saying.
But he still erupted though when he did.
It erupted, and it's just the stuff that happens within the scene. There were some things I didn't expect, but I loved, which is like, okay, so like you get the whole sequence of the two of them. He's trying to get I guess the MIT lady, I didn't catch this. Somebody pointed this out to me. This is the lady that talked to Iron Man who lost her child. I didn't know that until like somebody pointed that out to me. Really cool.
I want to say Christian Harloff's spoiler review taught me
really?
that. I watched I feel like it was that one. I watched very many spoiler reviews, but I didn't know that either.
Yeah, that was pointed out to me by somebody else. I was really thrilled to know that, because then it made more sense that, and it was not even her, like not even just her. The other guy who was in the crowd earlier. This is another cool thing they carried over. The guy who was, he said it again, the line from Homecoming where he's like, "Do a flip." That guy was in the crowd again.
Really?
And he said, "Do a flip" again to Spider-Man. And he had his phone
I do
out.
remember that. I forgot. I remember hearing "do a flip" because I laughed. I remember. I forgot though.
He's also the same guy on the bus in Shang-Chi, which I really love.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I didn't know that until I heard him say "do a flip" here, and he had his phone out recording everything. I was like, wait a minute. Is the guy from Shang-Chi also the guy who did do a flip in Homecoming, and now he's back here again? That's great that they keep reusing
this
him.
Really was the end game of all Spider-Man movies, man. Like,
it really
bada
was.
bing, bada boom.
Yeah, it really was. But
also, another spoiler review told me this too, that there's a part where Peter goes by like a newsstand, and I did notice there's a bunch of magazines with like the same woman's face on it. And I immediately thought that to be a reference to Spider-Man 2, like when MJ is on like that bulletin board and he passes by a wall that's all just pictures of that advertisement.
Right.
I thought it was a nod to that, but then because you see it for literally like 0.2 seconds, it was a glimpse. They did not close up on it at all.
That's cool.
But I'll was Liz. It was Liz Allen on the cover being like,
I did
giving
know that.
A tell all about Peter.
I did know that. That's right. Yeah. So that I did catch. I did catch that.
I couldn't believe that.
It was so weird too when I caught it, because I caught it and I saw it, but I was just, for some reason my mind was like, okay, just another thing, because there was so.
My brain went, oh, Spider-Man 2 reference,
right?
And then moved on.
Yeah. So I did catch it, but it was just like just another thing again, because it was like it was amazing to be there, and just I guess what I mean by that is like, and we'll get into this later. When you're watching things the first time in this movie, it doesn't feel real to you. It feels like, I can't believe I'm seeing this on screen right now, but we'll get into all that later. So, because there's
Yeah.
a lot happening right now, because you start out with Doc Ock. And first of all, I love that, Peter Parker would tap into his arms and like Bluetooth them basically, because that made
Yeah.
so much sense. It's new technology. We have a Tony Stark in
Yeah.
this universe, right? So it just all started to like come together for me to where it was like, oh my gosh, this is like Doc Ock was probably not prepared for this, you know what I mean? And so like that just was awesome. I like that, I mean, we saw it in the trailers. I love that he didn't know it was Peter Parker, because his Peter is Tobey Maguire's Peter. But let me tell you something about Alfred Molina really quick. So naturally fit into this movie in an unreal way. Like
He
I
really
was
did.
blown away. Like how did he? So I see my expectations for this movie. This is part of what blows me away about the movie overall. I knew we were getting cameos from the past. I knew people would be in there. I knew that was going to be an element that advanced it. I just thought it would be. It's cool to see him. It's great to see him. I didn't think everybody was going to come to work that on this thing the way that they did.
Yeah.
Like Alfred Molina came to work. He was playing a role.
Like they really just said like, if we're gonna do the damn thing,
We're gonna
guys,
go all
let's
the way.
do the damn thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they did.
Love
They
that.
did it. They did
Love
the
that.
damn thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into this later too, but
I really, real quick, I really feel like the great thing about the villains is that they didn't like force them to be something that wouldn't work for the movie. Because you know what I mean? They're all very similar to how they are in their original movies, but they kind of, I think really with the exception of Alfred Molina, though, honestly, they all kind of change a bit or are altered in a way to fit in this current universe.
yeah, but if you want to make it work the best, you have to do that. In my opinion.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That was incredible. Yeah, because it could have been real easy to just be like, okay, we're gonna be lazy and not write these characters into the movie and just have them be like featured cameo players. Like, and this is from, as a lot of people are talking about, like, man, growing up reading fan fiction really prepared you for this movie, and my boy, it did. That because like it's so easy to just like be lazy and be like, oh, these characters are already written, I'm just gonna throw them in my story and they're all just gonna say their famous catchphrases and they're in here, so it's cool. Like that's such a thing in fan fiction that I was so afraid they were gonna do that. And nope.
Well, I want to go into that really quick, what you were saying there with the fan fiction and all that, and I'm gonna say something that I know you're not gonna agree with, but that's okay. This movie, to me, is better than Endgame, and I'm going to tell you why. Just as an overall thing. I'll tell you why I think that. And I know you don't agree with that point, but this is my feeling on it.
I don't not disagree.
Okay. But
you know what I mean? Yeah.
This is my... either whether you do or not, I mean, a lot of people are going to disagree. Because here's the thing. This movie took the most, in my opinion, fan fiction approach. But it did it well. Like this of all the Marvel movies, in my opinion, felt like I want to take all of my action figures and play with them. Like, and no other movie in the MCU I don't think has ever felt like it this much. And like this felt like John Watts to me feels like a Spider-Man fan when I watch this. And there's something about the I love Endgame, I love Infinity War. By no means am I trying to say I don't love those movies. I just rewatched them. Actually, they've even moved up even further, those two movies on my ranking, I think, overall, the last time I watched them, because I forgot how great they actually were, especially watching them in a binge the way I just did. So by no means am I trying to take anything away from what those movies were and what the experience was. And by no means am I trying to also say that I'm just caught up in the hype of this. I have specific reasons as to why I think this succeeded as an event film more than those did. Because outside of fan service. Because the thing is like, but one of the reasons is specifically, this just felt like the most fan fiction approach. This felt like it was being made by a fan more than I think a lot of maybe even any MCU movie has in the past. Like, it just felt like you could just feel it. And it felt like John Watts was kind of staring us in the eye and just saying like, I got you, And like, it was almost like, I got you, but I'm also going to tear you apart later because I have a specific way I think I want this to go because it's going to make the most sense to me. And that's kind of what I think. That's the reason I think this movie worked as well as it did, is because he kind of just took this approach where it was like, I want to do the thing that makes the most sense to me, but I also want the fans to know that I love them and that I am going to sit here. I'm going to play with my action figures and I'm going to show you what I've always dreamed of happening. It's so cool. But Anyway, sorry, did you have something else on that, or?
No, I mean, I just totally agree. And it's just making me think about it again. Like, I've been saying this all year about Marvel, that it is just destroying the game. It is killing it. In
Yes.
that I like, because for me, I mean, I like a majority of the movies leading up to Infinity War. I like probably like most of them, like 95%. But the thing about like what really changed the game for me was like Infinity War, in the fact that it asked the question like, what happens when the heroes lose?
Right, and that was
And
great.
that was
Yeah,
something that no one had ever
100%.
truly dealt with. But it was something that we all needed to
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
We did it. It was something that we didn't know we needed to see, but we needed to see that.
So
And then so then gets followed up in Endgame, which then asks the question of like, what happens when trauma happens and bad things happen to you and you need to move on?
yeah,
What do you, can superheroes do that? Like, what would that mean?
I agree.
And and that's a whole thing. And this movie, again, I think is so monumental,
I agree.
because it asks the questions of like, not only who is Spider-Man and what does he actually believe in, but it's like, what if he could be redeemed? What if Spider-Man could like, what truly is doing the right thing?
Mhm.
Like, what does doing the right thing actually look like?
Well,
How does
yeah.
that play into a, which is not that the other Spider-Man movies don't do that, but this movie really, it fully drives in the heroism in doing truly the right thing.
Yes.
And what true responsibility actually is, which in turn defines Spider-Man.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, but the other thing I would bring up too about this movie, and then the other reason I think it's so brilliant, is in doing that, in asking those questions, which I think it does ask all those questions.
Yeah.
While asking those questions, it also reminds you as to why we fell in love with Spider-Man in the first place. And I think that this movie is a constant
100%.
reminder of that. That's kind of what I mean of like, I'll take the fan service out of this. Pluck Doc Ock, pluck Green Goblin out of the story. Just pretend we have the story without them. Even with that, John Watts is looking you in the eye. Even with what we have left, John Watts looks us in the eye and says, "I got you. I remember it too. I remember why we all fell in love with Spider-Man too. John Watts was looking us in the eye and saying, I was there when 2002's Tobey Maguire movie came out, and I'm going to remind you as to why we all love that." And I think he's kind of been saying this the whole time with this whole trilogy, but I think he was just like, but before we get there, I just want to explore this side of Peter, with Homecoming, Far From Home. I want to get there so we can build into it and like not just like hit you over the head with it. Because if we started with this movie, then we feel like they're just trying to recreate Spider-Man. But to end with it, it's kind of cool how that works, because there's an actual like science to the way that John Watts did this trilogy. It's unbelievable.
100%. Yeah. And honestly, I think there's a science to Sony and Marvel and John Watts all were involved in the making of the equation. Like, they were all there at these meetings.
Yeah.
Because I think we were also primed with like we were primed with Loki. We were primed with the idea of being able to see like multiple versions of a character that you love and see how they're different and yet can interact with each other. We were primed with Into the Spider-Verse to see different Spider-Men swinging around together. And then you're primed with every single other thing that Tom Holland has done as his time as Spider-Man.
True.
And just another big thing is like, it's kind of a little jumping ahead, but especially after what happens to Aunt May, I really have just been thinking about how like this movie recontextualizes every single Spider-Man movie I feel like that has come before it, because not only are, Tobey and Andrew's movies basically in the MCU now, they're prequels to this movie now.
Yes.
So every time someone wants to watch this movie, they're also going to want to watch the others.
Yeah.
So it's basically in the MCU, but it's also, it's his origin story, because we had all assumed that we missed his origin story.
No,
since we didn't see the bite and we haven't seen Uncle Ben, that this must not be his origin story.
No.
But then I'm like, oh my God.
It is
We've been watching his origin story the whole time.
This movie makes you rethink the last two.
Recontextualized everything.
Brilliant. Yes, it does. And so that's the whole thing. You said basically what I was going to say, but differently. What I was going to say was, when I watched Homecoming, I loved the movie. It was great. And when I watched Far
Yeah.
From Home, I loved it even more than Homecoming myself. I know a lot of people
Mhm.
disagree with that, but I thought Far From Home was the better of the two. But I was still like, both times I watched that movie, I always kind of wondered, was John Watts always the best choice for this, though? Like, even
Mhm.
though I really enjoyed those movies, I always had that thought in my head, was John Watts the
Right.
best to do this? Now I don't question it. I don't
Yeah.
question it at all, because now I look back and I go, yeah, he was perfect. He did this.
Mhm.
He executed his plan and what he wanted to do, I think, about as perfectly as anybody could ask for. Like,
Mhm.
after seeing this movie, let's go back to Doc Ock really quick, because I want
Yes.
to point out a couple things in this sequence, though. And we'll come back to all this conversation later, because
Yeah. This
it's
is
gonna
getting
come
ahead.
back
This
up.
is getting ahead. Yeah.
But first of all, the spider flip over the car was one of the most
That's pretty
Spider-Man
cool.
moments. It was amazing. And just like
Yeah.
on this bridge, this is the first time in a long time, like, I felt like now we're really in Spider-Man. This kind of ties back into what we were saying, like okay, here we go. We're getting
That
into
was
Spider-Man.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I love that. I was like, I love a classic Spider-Man. Someone's in a car and they go over and he has to pull them up. That is a classic Spider-Man
Yeah.
film like situation. And I was like, I love to see it.
Yeah.
It felt very Andrew and Toby to me. I loved it.
For the first time in a long, I mean, ever probably, I was finally like, oh my God, John Watts really gets it. Like, he gets it. And so like when just like the suspense building of the lady falling off the bridge, and then like
that was classic Spider-Man.
So I mean, Doc Ock doesn't realize that's Peter, right? And then like you get into this moment where he's like, he pulls back a little bit, which I thought was a very good like Doc Ock move, because if you watch Spider-Man 2, he is on the verge of being good. He always is. So like he's kind of playing into the better side of himself when he sees that this isn't my enemy. This isn't the guy who fucked up my shit. You know?
He's like, this isn't I have no issue with this guy, with this kid.
Right.
You know?
Because there's always a little bit of that good person in him still. And like he's kind of pulling back, and not to mention, like we said, Spider-Man's kind of already taking control of his arms. So that the good side that's still in Doc Ock is kind of like, okay, well, what can I do? And like I thought that all worked. And then the lady is like, you know what? You're different to Spider-Man, because she realizes like you're a different type of superhero.
And he is. That was because that was also a thing that everybody also assumed, and the whole Iron Boy Jr. thing was that people felt like this did not feel like anyone's Spider-Man. It did not feel like a concrete Spider-Man like Toby and Andrew did to most people.
Yeah.
But because it's true, because Spider-Man is not like Iron Man, he's not like Captain America, he's not like Hawkeye, he's not like Thor, he's not like any other of the Avengers, and yet he's living in the Avengers universe right now. So that's, again, the theme is all, that's what, like, part of what I feel like a lot of people get confused sometimes when you see like, how can you tell like the directing was good? But the fact that like this theme is built out all the way entirely through, and you can tell that this theme is being highlighted all the way, that idea of what is Spider-Man and who is he in every single facet of it, that takes talent. That takes a lot.
I want to say something else about this movie too. And I think right here is when I started to realize this about this movie, is like right around the bridge sequence, because we talked about how like this first like 45 minutes wasn't maybe as strong as like say like the rest of it. It might have been like even the first 30 minutes just was kind of like, it wasn't as strong as it becomes. So for me, I think like one of the things that's making this work, and kind of the thing that's I think is going to make Phase 4 work in the future, or just like what Marvel's going to do from here on out in the future work. And you're either going to be on board with this approach or you're not, because I know people that aren't. Like, I know Cisco did not like this movie, for example. Like, he did not like this movie at all.
Really?
Yeah. I talked to him the other day about it. But, like, so, for example, I understand people aren't going to be on board with this. This movie, and it came to me around this scene. I don't care about how the first 30 minutes went, because it's not because of we're getting fan service. It's nothing to do with it. This phase of Marvel,
because
wherever
it got
they're
us
going
here.
Next, well, true, but
for me, a part of that, I was like, well, it got us here.
True, but the other thing is here. Like, I think this movie is kind of, I say this about the whole movie, and I think this is where they're just trying to go now, is it's kind of perfectly imperfect. I don't think they're so concerned anymore with how people are going to take it, because I think that they're going to get shit on anyway. I think that Marvel's kind of in a place where they know it doesn't really matter what we do. We're going to get shit on anyway. So all we can do at this point is get people like a John Watts or maybe even the Russos and just get people that are just like massive fans of this shit and just see what they do. And I think that that's the new approach to Marvel now. We'll get into that later because of the Doctor Strange trailer, but like we'll get into that. But I'm just saying that I think the new approach to Marvel is like, we're not so concerned with like, was this scene shot as perfectly as it could have been, or how cinematic is it, or whatever the fuck critics are going to say about it. We just want to make the best damn movie we can. And like even when I watch like Infinity War and Endgame, there's always this part of me that feels like those movies are very concerned with how people are going to take it. Now they've kind of loosened up. There's a loose element now. I like the looseness of it. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, you had a point.
I just think that also just thinking about that I think like that looseness, I think is also a very big part of them being like, well, what happens after Endgame? And they're like, well, we can't we can't just duplicate it again. People are going to know. So what do? They change up a lot of like the styling, make it a little bit more quirky and goofy, make the characters have more modernized humor and things like that. Bring in cameos and stuff that we all are begging them to give us. You know, things like that.
I think it was very clear to me in WandaVision as well that they're just kind of like now, like especially it's clear. We just want to play. We just want to play.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that they just kind of want to play.
Yeah. That was a big. There's a saying like in the theater, especially.
Sure, I'm interested to hear this.
That if you have fun on stage, the audience will have fun. Right. That's the key. Like that is the key to the magic of theater. If you have fun, your audience will have fun. That's never not been the case.
Yeah.
And you can just tell in this movie, especially once we get the 3 Spider-Men together, they are just having the time of their life. And that is bringing so much to it. That's the special magic. Like, because it would be one thing for them to interact with each other, but the fact that it's so much fun and so much energy, that's the specialness for me, at least.
I agree with it. I actually get that analogy. I mean, I've been in bands in the past, none of which were very good, but I've been in bands in the past.
But the more fun you had, you got bigger applause.
That was always something I had.
That always happens.
That was always kind of my approach in my head was like, you know what? The music might not be as perfect as we want it, but if we go out there and we play it, we're going to, and we have fun doing it. We show we're having fun doing it. Then the audience is going to have fun. And that is the exact approach they're taking right now. At WandaVision, it was very clear. It's very clear here. It solidified it in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter how many fucking flaws I see in this movie. I had some of the most fun I've ever had with a Marvel movie in this. And not only that,
and I feel like so did every single person who worked on this movie.
Yes, I agree.
You know?
I agree. Yeah. If you can get Dickhead McGuire to have a good time on a movie, you've done something right. Because
Dickhead McGuire, I'm just
saying. I love Toby. Like I do as like an actor. I think he's awesome, but I'm a big fan of Toby McGuire. You know what movie? I don't know. Have you ever seen Brothers, by the way? Just side note.
No, I haven't. I know what movie you're talking about.
That's probably his best like acting performance. If you ever want to see him like really go into some good range. But sorry, side note.
I really want to see Pleasantville. That's a movie I've never seen, and I just have missed it. Wow. I know. Reese, like I know. I know. I was like Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire. What the fuck is wrong with me?
It's WandaVision before WandaVision. You got to see it.
I know. Maybe I'll watch it.
Anyway,
but there was another thing too of a saying just in general of like, you don't need to be everything to everybody. You just need to be something to somebody. And I feel like that is kind of the approach Marvel's taking right now. And it's just because I think a lot of it's they're seasoned. They've gotten Academy Award nominations, for Christ's sake. Like they're very established.
They're just not concerned about it anymore, though.
They don't need to be everything to everybody anymore. They can just be something to someone.
Yeah.
And it works.
I think
we love it because they have us, by the chokehold, some would say, but it's honestly true. Like they got me. Yeah, I love their storytelling. I'm going to watch everything they do.
I think another thing to that is, and I hate to bring up my beloved Star Wars, God forbid, but like, I think they probably watched Mandalorian and saw what they were doing, and they were like, wow, Star Wars is taking this, like, let's just play approach. Let's try it out too. It's working for them. And so, like, I think that's a lot of it. Like, it worked for Star Wars. It's working for Marvel. And I think I'm so excited now that this movie kind of solidified. because I was always on the fence with all these shows and everything coming out, like on Disney Plus. I was always every time, even though I liked it, I liked them all to some degree or another. I've still been like, what are they doing? This movie solidified to me. Oh, I see. They're just playing.
Yeah.
They're just playing. They're having fun, and I'm good with that. And so this movie's important for just more reasons than the fan service. This is the movie that just solidified to me. This is why I was saying earlier when I said this evolves Marvel. This is the movie that evolves it, because it does take it in the direction to let you know, look, guys, we're just playing around here, and you're either going to be on board or you're not. Luckily in this case it seemed to have worked, but
it's about the third time in a row they've done the impossible. I mean, like fifth if you want to count the other Avenger movies and stuff, but like if you're asking me, third time in a row they have presented with the fact that they're going to try to do the impossible and told me that we're going to try to do the impossible, and then I watched the movie and it's pulled off. Like
100%. Anyway, back to the bridge. Because so this is the one thing I wanted to bring up, because I thought this was just absolutely amazing on a filmmaking level. Doc Ock comes up, right? Or not Doc Ock, I'm sorry, Green Goblin, right? Because
that was phenomenal.
Which
that
was
one of the biggest
entrance. Phenomenal entrance. But
again, I hated that I knew he was gonna roll the thing.
True. But then the strange portals come up, which was extremely unexpected, and then I'm just like, whoa.
We were all like,
okay, that's how they're doing it. That was cool. And so, I
got scared. I was like, is there a villain? I was like, is Mysterio or someone here? That's what I thought. I was like, is he about being an illusion or something? Because I'm like, why is Strange getting him right now?
And the movie doesn't want you to know for a long time, because you even got Alfred Molina saying like, you're fighting a ghost, and you're like, whoa, is he like actually dead? How do the timelines work? You're thinking about this the whole time. Eventually, obviously, you realize that everybody was just pulled from a different time in their lives, and I thought that was cool.
Random moments,
which I thought was the best, most simple approach. But I like that the movie challenged you a little bit to make you like, wonder about it too at the same time. And so you get into Doctor Strange's lair, and they're all in the Molina at least is in the I'm joking, but back to Tank. Saying he's And I like that little spark of insanity that you see when Peter's like trying to interrogate him, because he's like, I'm tired, or he says like, we're tired of your questions, and it was like so unexpected when he did that. I was like, damn, Molina, you're going for it again. I loved it. And but then we go on like this heist of multiversal trespassers, which I also really dug.
To make it like Electro and Sandman.
I dug in concept, but I will say this is one of the other parts that doesn't work for me. And if I'm gonna critique this as a film, and again, this is one of the great things about this movie, I don't give a shit that it didn't work. I just love the movie. I love the idea of just like trying to go out there and find multiversal trespassers, as Doctor Strange called them. But the one thing I'll say though is it does kind of work, because you got Ned, Peter, and MJ all at the center of this. So if you take them out of it, I don't know that the scene plays as well. But because you have that heart of it working together is great. By the way, the scene where MJ is talking to him about run it by us type of thing, if you're going to do this again, was so good. And it had no business being that good. And it was just the acting between the two.
I think it was the Tom and Zendaya of it all, I think, really. Same with honestly, same with like Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2. There's so many moments with Gwen and Peter that you're like, this is so good, and for what? For what? And you're like, I think it's a lot of it is they are just genuinely in love with each other.
The heart of those two. Ned is such a strong part too, and I don't want to take anything away from him, because he probably gave the best performance of Ned that he has so far. But
oh my god, when they all hug also at the end,
we'll talk about that.
Ned
agreed. We'll talk about it, because it's top tier performing. But I'm just saying, when you see the Zendaya and the Tom of it all, or the Peter and the MJ of it all, whatever you want to call it, that holds the movie up. Even in the moments that I'm like, right, here's one of them where they're trying to go out and get multiversal trespassers. They're holding this up. And so I just didn't give a shit about how poorly paced this was in this moment, or like whatever, I don't care, because of them. It's not the fan service. It's not seeing Electro. It's not seeing Sandman. It's not seeing Lizard. It was those two being at the heart of it. And like, that's what's holding it all up for me. Loved it all. And I just, by the way, IMDb put an extended interview out for their Tom and Zendaya interview after this movie was released. Those two are dating. I don't give a shit what you said. They're together.
They're 100% are. I don't. They're together.
I know people
They've
are still
been together.
it,
I feel like for years. I feel like they have been together.
I don't think. Yeah, that was the other thing I was to say. I don't think this is anything new. I think this started a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't think any of their friends or family are new. They're like, this is like a 3-year thing. I don't know what.
Yeah, because they have like have like stories from years ago of them two together, like out and about. It's like, why are you two hanging out so much? I know why.
No, they're together.
They're dating.
1,000 entire. Watch any. I swear, if you don't believe me, watch any interview that they did together on this press tour. I swear to God, pick any.
You know what?
And you can tell.
You know what? I'm not mad about it. And if you are, you're a fucking racist. But anyway, sorry.
And it's the Peter and MJ magic. Every single live action actor who has played Peter and MJ or Peter and his love interest on screen have been together in real life.
But this movie, on a serious note, off of what I just said, which I was kidding, you might not be racist. You might just not like them as actors. That's fine. Everything's subjective. But no, but to be honest, on a serious note, I do love the representation, the natural representation of interracial relationships that they're showing in this movie, because I've seen
now it's never addressed too. It's never been addressed.
That's what I love. That's what I love.
Same with like their height difference. Never once been addressed. It's beautiful.
I don't think you care. I don't think you care.
Because who cares? Honestly.
They're so good together. That's what makes it work. Regardless of their personal life. The way they make these movies is in a sense that the way that they represent an interracial relationship, I almost want to cry talking about it, because it is that damn good. It's so natural. It's so like it's so damn good, because like the thing is about the way that they do it, as opposed to like when other blockbusters try it, I feel like big blockbuster movies try it, I feel like they're just doing it to do it. Like they don't always pick the best like chemistry actors. Like I'll say one thing.
Like what I mean by real quick, just like what I mean by like that I love that it's never mentioned is because the reason why they always want to mention it in movies is because they want the credit for it. They want you all to watch it and then go on Twitter and be like, oh my God, this director and screenwriter and producer are the wokest people. They're not racist at all because look at the line they said in this movie. It's for that. It's not for the sake of the story. It's so that people watch it and want to give you a pat on the back.
And it feels like that
and this
every
is
time.
Not about giving John Watts a pat on the back. This is about characters.
At least in like the big blockbusters, it always feels that way. Like they're just doing it to like be like, hey, we're woke.
They pick the best actor. Period.
Here they just did it because it was the best choice. And and the amazing thing is like it was done from the very beginning. It was set up. You know, from the very beginning it was set up because so you know that even before they became a thing in the movies, they chemistry read together, you know, and then like so they put the work forth to be like, or John Watts at least was like, I want to find two people who really mesh in an interracial relationship, and like we're gonna build to it. And people are going to love it. And I think they do. I don't really think there really is anybody who's against this relationship in this movie. Yeah. Because you don't care. You're not thinking about it. You're not thinking about the fact that it is interracial.
You know? Yeah.
Why would you give a shit? They are amazing. It's clear by the end of this movie, these two are the best for each other. Like when it comes to chemistry. Anyway. But moving on from that, because I didn't want to go down a whole political route with it, but you know, I think it's worth mentioning that they did such a good job with that.
See, John Watts, you didn't ask for a pat on the back, but I'm going to give you one anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't asked for, and that's what made it work. But so we get this heist, and then we're getting Electro, we're getting Sandman and Lizard. Now I will say I wasn't sure about Sandman and Lizard at first. I was like, this is a really weird
Lizard is still like a nitpick I have. I feel like he just felt, if anybody felt like he was what I was afraid the movie would be. Like he was just kind of there for me. And I thought all of the villains were in danger of just kind of being there. He was just kind of there.
See, I disagree. I think by the end, I got
Sandman a little bit less, but he's the second.
See, I disagree. At first, I agreed with you, but like by the time I got to the end of it, and I even liked it more the second time. Maybe might take a second watch for you because I loved it even more
Maybe.
the second time. Because even by the time I saw it the second time, I was like, man, that really paid off, these two.
I did like the payoff though of him being cured and stuff.
Yeah.
That,
the
though,
payoff was great. And so then I was like, okay, they're not just there. It felt like it at first though. I won't lie.
Yeah.
And like, you know, because you're not seeing the actors. I think that's part of it. You're not seeing Tom.
That was probably part of it. Yeah.
And you're not seeing Reese. I can't remember his last name. He's a good actor.
He's one of the guys where Michael Stuhlbarg is this guy for a lot of people, but like he's an actor that he's just like the guy in movies for me. He's always like that guy.
He's great at it.
I never know his name, but I see him all the time and he's great. I love him in everything he does, but it's just like that guy.
Yeah.
Don't know his name. He's the guy.
I just think I think he's great at that in movies, but but I'll say this, in Amazing Spider-Man, I don't love him in Amazing Spider-Man.
I mean, yeah, the thing about Amazing Spider-Man is that it's like not the best movie, I think, overall. I think Andrew's incredible in it, and Emma Stone
the Spider-Man of it works.
Well.
That's the thing. The Spider-Man of the movie works.
And I think I think a lot of it's the writing in that movie and the pacing and stuff, which is partly a director's fault as well. But I think like it feels, at least there was an attempt by the director to try. Yeah. I feel the effort. You know, it didn't pay off, but I felt it.
Not to go into an Amazing Spider-Man review, but I'll say this, like, because I just rewatched it, I'm fresh on it.
I agree the same with the second one as well.
Yeah, I think the Spider-Man of Amazing Spider-Man all works. Like that stuff, the origin all works, and like even
have a problem with him. He is never the issue. Him and Emma are never the issue.
And even when you're seeing him like start to be Spider-Man, you're like, this is like a darker route for Spider-Man. I like it in Amazing Spider-Man, but then you get into the Dr. Connors of it all. And I would have rather had seen the Dr. Connors in the Tobey movies be Lizard, because that Connors was better than Reese, in my opinion. But I think that's part of the reason I liked Reese in this movie more, because it all kind of came to fruition and paid off in a way. Anyway, so just to tie a full circle to this.
Yeah.
But moving forward, because now we got Willem Dafoe completely manipulating the situation.
Evan Dafoe.
We're going to talk about him in a second a little bit more, but he is completely manipulating the situation. He's going in, he's kind of getting in with Aunt May. He's kind of like, I love the way he played it too. He's just
Do you think that was him manipulating the situation?
Oh yeah.
To me, I read that as like, because for me, I'm like,
the first time I didn't
like
think
Norman.
so. The second time I said definitely. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe on the second time I read it differently. Because for me, I was like, there's a difference between the Green Goblin and Norman Osborn.
I agree.
Me. And to me, that felt like Norman Osborn. And that there was he just happened to flip.
I'll tell you why.
Because
so we see him, and he's kind of fighting with himself a little bit with the Goblin mask, because
he just shatter it. Because him shattering it to me was him being like, no, I'm going to be Norman.
But because the last thing that they zoomed in on was the mask, it made me think the Goblin just found a way in to infiltrate.
It slipped out.
Yeah,
like that.
I think so. I think he was like, I found a way into Norman's brain. So I think he was infiltrating. I think he was going in to manipulate Aunt May. Yeah. And I think that speaks volumes about the directing there. I think like, because it is so open to interpretation, it just makes it all that more brilliant. Because we clearly have varying opinions on this now. I mean, clearly I've seen it twice, so I had a different opinion the second time, but still, it speaks volumes to the directing, because nobody's going to ever really know who was who. But I think the Goblin definitely slipped in and was like, let me try to use the Norman side of the brain to manipulate the situation. And I think that was kind of it. So that the second time around, that was my opinion. But you still, like, you see Norman sitting next to Aunt May, you're like, because
that's what I thought too.
You don't know. And you're like, and she's like, you have to help him. By the way, Marisa Tomei's best performance is Aunt May, by the way. Just
oh my God.
It out there.
The way oh my God. I couldn't believe that she was able to say, she said with great power must also come with great responsibility, in a way that I had never heard. Like, it's a testament to good acting, that the way someone can say a line and make it sound like you've never heard it before, if you're hearing it for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. And so like he gets Norman, and Norman's helping him, quote unquote. We'll see. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
You think he's helping him? I did love I'm something of a scientist myself.
Just
I
myself.
laughed so hard when that happened. I laughed so
Yeah.
hard. It was great.
That was good.
And for the people that didn't get that, go back and watch your Tobies because come on. I mean, that was
or look
phenomenal.
at some memes.
Well, the meme circuit.
Yeah.
It definitely made it big on the meme circuit.
Yeah.
You know, so that's something that maybe went over people's heads, but I kind of like that was just for like the true fans. You know.
Yeah, it was just
nice.
slipped in there.
Loved it.
Yeah.
And you know, by the way, the Jamie Foxx approach to Electro, I know people are complaining about it because it's inconsistent, but I loved it. I loved it. Come on, we knew that they were going to change the approach. For the people that are complaining, did you not know that they were going to change the approach?
Yeah.
I mean,
the thing was like he wasn't. I didn't. You know, it wasn't great. He wasn't great in Spider-Man 2. I didn't hate it.
I liked him when he was Max, but then when he became Electro, I thought it played way overly cheesy. Like I thought he was fine as Max.
That they were able to change them all a little bit. Again, I think Doc Ock is probably the one that literally did not change at all. But they are able to like make them work into this world, and again, they give a good reason for being like, oh well, this the energy in this world is different and it feels different. It's like a new drug to him.
It's what we said in the beginning, right?
It makes
like
sense.
They were all gonna change their approach ever so slightly to reach the vision of Doc Ock. Not to mention, Jamie Foxx probably didn't want to play it that way again. You know,
100%.
Why would he?
I feel like when the meetings for this happened, Jamie Foxx was like, "Listen, I will, but like we're gonna have to fix some things." Just like Tobey Maguire was also like, "Listen, I will, but I don't want to be in the suit the whole time."
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Andrew Garfield was like, "Listen, I will, but I want to be in the suit the whole time."
And why would he? Because Jamie Foxx is a tremendously good actor. He really is. And like he's a tremendously talented dude that just doesn't always get shown. He's unfortunately been stuck in doing a lot of crap. So he's like, if I'm coming into your MCU movie where you guys have showcased some great acting in the past, I want to do that too. And so I would imagine that they would just like afford him that same privilege, you know, if he was gonna. It just made sense the way they did it to me. So I had no problems with it at all. But it wasn't completely inconsistent either, because they acknowledged the fact that like Max was like the nicest guy before he fell into that EO thing, and I love the approach, because even he is kind of he's teetering in the middle a little bit too throughout the whole thing. But you know, so that they got all these villains, and Doctor Strange and Peter get into this battle, which was one of the most Spider-Man moments ever, because and not only that, it was even one of the most Doctor Strange moments ever, because Peter, I kind of thought of like when I'm playing the Spider-Man video game, when he started to be like, oh, this is geometry. I was like, that's Spider-Man. That's Peter Parker. He's going to think of it in like a different way than Doctor Strange is thinking of it. Because he's taking him through like this like weird multiversal portal thing going on. And like, I'm not a comic book fan, folks. I know you got a more technical term for me, but he's taking him through this whole thing. And like, Peter's like, oh, everything that he's doing here, this could just be solved with geometry. I'm a smart enough guy to do it. So he does that. And he like, and
it felt like such a comic book moment too, as well, which I loved. Like that felt like something straight out of a comic book. Like Spider-Man uses math to outdo Doctor Strange and ties him up with like, while he's, dividing by pi, like incredible.
Well, that's another thing I want to say about this movie, because everybody says this about Spider-Verse for obvious reasons, that it feels like a comic book come to life. This really feels like a comic book come to life, this whole movie.
It really did.
That's another thing that they just succeeded on in a whole new level, because while granted, they've done good casting for a lot of the characters and stuff like that, I don't know that anybody's been as much of a comic book fan as I felt John Watts was when watching this in the MCU, because they definitely just like, they took this approach where it was like, we want to make this feel like a comic book come to life. And so like, I love that throughout the whole thing. But you're right. A lot of people were upset that Spider-Man kind of bested Strange when Strange kind of knocked him out of his body. And even me, for a second, I was like, this is weird that he's going to get him. Then I realized it's a spider sense. That's what's getting him. It's the spider sense.
I haven't noticed that. That's one thing I'm 100% going to need to look for when I see it a second time. I didn't notice that. I think I was just I wasn't looking for it. But yeah, that was the thing I learned in reviews, that you can see his spider sense.
It's subtle, but like it's there. So
I'm
like
gonna look for it next time.
but that's
I'm pretty
great.
sure my brother and I are gonna go see this on Christmas.
Wonderful.
So
You should.
I'll look for it. It's
Wonderful.
gonna be. I'm hoping. Yeah.
It's a good Christmas movie, by the way, folks. I'll get into
I
why I think
know.
that. But
And he hasn't seen it yet, and I'm like, we got to see it together.
no.
Yeah.
I really, if my sister didn't live in Texas because we grew up on the Tobies, I
Mhm.
don't think she's watched a Spider-Man
Yeah.
movie since. But I really want to watch this with her. But
I'm good. We're going to
Texas,
visit him for Christmas,
Oh,
so
nice.
we're gonna be in the same state.
Oh,
Yeah.
good deal. Good deal. Anyway, so my thing is with sorry, where was I going with that? So
I don't remember, to be honest.
Oh, either way, it's good filmmaking in the Spider-Man's with the spider sense.
Yes.
Because it is so subtle, and it makes you kind of look for it as like an audience member. Love that. And once you get that, you're like, oh, well, now that makes so much sense. If he had spider sense, he would be able to, move the box. And it was hysterical too, the way they played it with him moving his arm, and it was fun. And it was just visually fantastic, all this stuff. Kind of reminded me of Inception too, when he like brought him through the portal world, and it was just great.
A little bit, yeah.
Just great. Yeah, but anyway, so Strange is like locked up, right? And he's in this other world. And actually, Sammy, at this moment, I was like, I bet you Strange comes back through with Toby and Andrew. That was my thinking.
Ooh,
which would have been great.
That would have been cool.
But
that felt also a little too easy for me. That was a little not my favorite thing, that he was just like, oh, I was stranded over the Grand Canyon for 4 hours.
Oh, I thought it was hysterical.
Like, I mean, it is funny. It's just you could have done better.
Maybe.
I feel like there were better ideas being thrown around in the room.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a Maniscalco moment here, Sebastian Maniscalco. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care.
Why do you care?
For real though, I really, it's like the stuff that like I nitpick, I just don't give a shit about. I don't. As a fan, I don't care. And I understand where you're coming from. I'm not saying your nitpick is invalid. It's just I don't give a shit. Like I really don't.
And valid. Fair.
But it's valid. You're valid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I did think that Strange was coming back with Toby and Andrew. I was like, okay, that's how they're gonna do it. But the movie just continues to surprise me, and that's so much respect to it for that. But he grabs the thing with Ned. Some people are saying that Ned is magic. I don't think that was so much that. I think it was more or less the thing that he had on. Or
I saw I forget who it was, but I saw one reviewer being like, it's possible that like
I guess
Ned
it happens in the comics anyway.
Yeah, that there's something like Ned might have been able. There was something about like how Doctor Strange, his big thing was he wasn't able to use. The reason why it took him so long to learn magic was because he needed to like step away from himself. He was like too arrogant. He didn't have the understanding or like, ability to tap into that kind of magic. He needed to learn to like chill out, basically.
Yeah.
But Ned, being, a 17-year-old kid who has his best friend is literally Spider-Man and always grew up with, superheroes, and is also, a bigger guy going through high school. Like he would have already that deep understanding of like empathy and, sense of self,
and all
that
good.
it might be easier flowed through him.
Sure.
And I accepted that. I was like, that makes sense.
I accepted it too. And all good either way for me. My, well, kind of. I mean, like, if it is just that Ned's magic, I might want more of an explanation, and I can understand the complaints. But I think that's not the case. I think it's because they took Doctor Strange's thing. Because if you're a casual viewer watching, that's all you're going to think about.
Yeah.
Think about it.
That thing just must be super powerful because Doctor Strange had it.
As a casual viewer, you were not going to think about the fact that Ned subtly said, hey, we have magic in our family earlier. Right. You're not. You're just not.
It's like another wizard in Harry Potter, like picking up someone else's wand. Like they can still... Yeah, if you grab Harry's, it might be a bit more powerful than if you grab, Luna's. I don't know, but like...
And he didn't do anything that impressive. Like, let's be real. Like, in all honesty, like all Ned did, he opened a couple portals. It wasn't like that impressive.
Yeah. He didn't make chant a spell. He didn't cast runes. He didn't... So
Doctor
do the lasso fight thing. Like, he just opened some portals.
Doctor Strange's thing... Because Ned is helpless in a fight, let's be real. It was the mixture of Doctor Strange's thing and Ned's, maybe, if he has it at all, subtle magical powers. Subtle. Yeah. Very subtle, very not developed. So you mix that together, I think it works, and I can accept it. Again, Maniscalco,
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. But yeah,
Yeah.
like really, I just don't. And like because it
but
just,
like while watching it, I did not give a fuck. Like, you know what I
really,
mean? This was something that like when I thought about
yeah,
it after, I was like, oh, huh. That why was he able to do that
it's
so easily?
strange, but
Yeah.
no pun intended. But I mean, you know, it's
Yeah. No,
also
intend the
kind of
pun. Yeah.
intended pun.
There you go.
No, but I don't care. But anyway,
Yeah.
so either way, let's get to this.
This is the we're in the third act.
Well,
We're
because
in the end game now.
Peter, well, let's talk about this. Yeah, because Peter, he's bringing him back to Happy's apartment. I love the scene with Happy calling him up. What who's this electric guy who's walking in my place? Yeah, that was
and
great.
I love that you got to see the camera footage, and I think it was Electro. Like one of them like looks straight into the camera and is like.
Now, one of my other
that was
problems
great.
with this movie, though, and I wish they didn't do this. Excuse me, it was dumb in my opinion. Leaving Lizard in the truck was weird to me. Because
yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. I like don't even remember that. Once you said it, I'm like, oh, that's right, he was.
Yeah, because they
in the thing. Because if you
that
would have
was a
asked me, I'd be like,
problem
oh
to me.
no, he was in the apartment too, wasn't he? The whole
Exactly.
time that was the thing.
That's my problem with it though,
He was
because
just kind of there.
it's kind of
me.
unnecessary to like just leave him in the truck. Because like either way, we're gonna love the moment when the shit hits the fan. It doesn't matter if he's staying in the truck or not in the truck. But then again, it's the other thing that makes me think this was premeditated is the fact that Lizard stayed in the truck. This was premeditated by Goblin. Whatever. This is one of the parts I really had a problem with though, because to me it was like you're kind of giving away the big reveal before the reveal happens, that something's going to happen by leaving Lizard in the truck. And they kept kind of like not reiterating it, but they did show a couple flashes of him still in the truck. And I was like, why? You know, I was like, why did he need to stay in the truck? Because if he had, okay, so there's two ways you can go with this. Number one, if there was no premeditated plan, then why is he in the truck? But number two, if there is a premeditated plan, then you're blowing your cover by staying in the truck. And how did nobody pick up on that? You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's like, so either way, that was a big problem for me. It's probably one of my biggest problems in the whole movie. But other than that, I'll move on. Because Peter's trying to help these guys, and I love the motivation behind it. And that's even, again, through all my problems, there you got the side plot or the big plot that's the core of the movie that's just carrying it, which is Peter trying to help all the villains. And this is where the movie started to pick back up for me after the heist of trying to catch multiversal trespassers. Is him just trying to help these people and the interactions between them and them kind of addressing their own flaws and like having to look like internally in themselves and see like, hey, I got problems. That was amazing. It's great writing. It's great, filmmaking to have these villains finally look at themselves from an outside perspective, because Peter is, but Peter's coming at it from a good place. And it really does make you wonder if, Toby or Andrew had looked at it from that perspective, could they have avoided a whole hump of shit? And I love that. I know some people might have a problem with that, but for me, I was like, I love that.
That's a really good point.
Because like, seriously, like Jamie Foxx is like, I love all the power. He didn't say it like this, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, I love all the power, but I kind of want to see what the kid could do. Like I want to see like what he can do for me. And that was the whole thing with all the villains. They were just like, we're going to put our trust in this kid because he's all we got. He is literally all we got at this moment. And I get why some people would have a problem with that, because it's like they didn't have a good experience with the last Spider-Man they dealt with. Why would they with this one or Peter Parker? But for me,
it was the fact that this one fought Doctor Strange in order to give them hope. You know what I mean? And they all saw it. That was
exactly.
For me, that was a really important part of that moment, was that they saw him, that Peter took the box from Doctor Strange, like in front of them.
And I was going to bring that point up because that is what makes this so much more of a. This is what puts it again above like the other event films like Endgame and Infinity War. Is this one is just so much more of a character study. It makes you examine the characters in a big way. So he's trying to help all these villains. He's like, I'm going to cure you, and some of them are like, again, looking at themselves from the outside in, like, well, we don't really trust the kid, but he's all we got. He's our last hope. So let's see what he can do. But then, and I love him and Norman working together on this thing. And I
Yeah.
loved watching Peter because it took me back to Far From Home. Well, I don't want to go back to Tony Stark Jr., but it is reminiscent of Tony. And I think you need that because
Right.
you need to bring it full circle.
Mhm.
Because like when Happy's watching him in the airplane, mess with the suits and stuff, Peter. And like Happy just has a big smile on my face. One of my favorite moments in Far From Home is that. He's like, I'll get the music, and it's like AC/DC
Mhm.
playing. I actually
Right,
love that.
yeah.
I actually love that. I know like a lot of people have complaints about that, but I love that.
No,
Because
I like it. It's cute. Yeah.
Tony Stark, he's not Tony Stark Jr., but Tony Stark was a role model to him.
Yeah.
And he even shows on the case like that he opens up. He's using Stark tech. And I
Mhm.
love Aunt May. I thought that was the tanning bed
And
that
even
Happy
before,
broke.
like, yeah. And I feel like, because even before he met Tony Stark was a hero to him. Like we forget, like, the Avengers were pretty established for a couple of years by the time that he Peter Parker teams up with them.
Yeah.
And he goes to a science and technology school. Like, of course he knows everything that Tony Stark has ever done.
Right.
There's that
Right.
part of it too.
Right. 100%.
Mhm.
Now, let me be completely honest, because I want to give you my perspective the first time watching this. Now,
Okay.
a lot of this stuff is my second time watching it perspective. First time watching this, while there are a lot of moments I'm digging, and a lot of this movie I'm like, it's fantastic, I'm having fun, I kind of at this point was like, where's this all going? Where are we going? Because
Yeah.
I started to actually have a little bit of doubt about Toby and Andrew at this point, because it just didn't feel like the movie that would introduce them. Also, in my mind, I was like, if Toby and Andrew show up, it's going to be like, because this movie's kind of falling apart, and that's the only thing they have. But John
I was
Watts,
also like, time is ticking. Like, we feel like we're getting toward
yes,
the end of this movie.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's the exact feeling I have. I was like, oh man, I'm kind of enjoying this. It's a different take than I thought, but where is it going?
But it's been like an hour and a half. It's been like an hour and 45, bro. Like,
yeah,
are they coming or not?
But then Peter's
Yeah.
walking around the room, and just the sound design I can go on about all day of it's like the air got sucked out of the room again. I love that effect. I think that I love when directors use that effect effectively. And like they use that, and Peter's just walking around, and you are just like, as an audience member, what in the fuck is going on? And Peter's walking around, he's looking at everybody. He's trying to figure out, like, and you can kind of tell at this point too, okay, something's ticking, something's tingling. And he's got the tingle. Like something's going on with the spider sense. But he's looking around at everybody. Everybody's like, why are you like Jamie Foxx is like, why are you looking at me like that, bro? Everybody, and you're, as an audience member, I was like holding on to my seat, like something's gonna come down. And the other thing I was thinking right there is like, where the fuck was this John Watts in the last two movies? Because you just like,
right.
And so then all of a sudden Peter just turns. I love it because it's in such silence. He just uses the webs and gets Willem Dafoe's hand.
Right.
And you're like, oh my God, what the fuck? And I'll tell you why this is. Okay, so let me tie this back to everything we just said really quick.
Yeah.
So this is the thing with this, is the rest of the movie, to me, after I saw this moment, this is why I thought the rest of the movie was done a certain way by design, because they did not want you to see this coming. They did not want you to see this intense shit coming. He gets Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe's like stuck to it. And then Willem Dafoe goes into full goblin, right? Like he is not Norman Osborn anymore. That fucking speech he gave. Not only was it, this makes him one of the best villains we've had in the MCU, because he is so fucking scary in this moment. I don't need every fucking movie to be like Joaquin Phoenix Joker level, right? Like I don't need it that. Like I'm okay with a PG-13 superhero movie, but make your villains this compelling, please. Because then I was like, Willem Dafoe is a fucking god as an actor. He will give 100% to anything, and he is so scary in this moment, right?
Yeah.
And then this like he just said one like lecture, and every villain was convinced. You know what? We're with you.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're like, no,
Wow.
you're probably gonna win, bro. Like they all were like, no, F this Peter kid.
Yeah.
Like this is the dude that's gonna win.
And you buy it because of that performance. You buy it
Yeah.
because of Willem Dafoe's performance.
Mhm.
And this movie just suddenly gets dark, and you do wonder
Yeah.
where this was from John Watson the last two. While this movie
Especially,
again,
I mean, in their fight too, like it's talked about a lot on the internet, but like when he's like punching him and he just has the biggest smile on his face the whole time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That.
And Peter, yeah, they get in this massive, awesome battle, right? Peter
Mhm.
is like they go through patios on like outside the
Yeah.
houses. It's brutal. It's brutal. And like Peter, this is how you do it right. If you're gonna keep your shit in a PG-13 setting, this is how you do it right. You know what I mean? Because you got Peter punching him. He's like on him. He's punching him, and we see this rage from the Tom Holland Peter Parker that I don't think we've seen in a movie before when he's punching him. Right? He's getting him in the face, and like you said,
I thought he was gonna kill him.
Yeah.
For a moment there, I was
Yeah.
like, Peter's gonna make a kill. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like if he would have killed him, I would not have been shocked. I felt it coming.
And suddenly I'm like, oh my god, this movie just took the biggest turn in the world, and just like the feelings I had, the emotions I had in this moment, just like I can't even describe them. You know, you have to see it for yourself to get it. But I was like, oh my god, that's all I can say. It was great.
Yeah.
And then like we get down to the lobby part, right? And Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin has Peter Parker beaten to a pulp at this point almost. He's like, and I really was surprised he didn't just take his head and slam it into that rock or the concrete at that point because but I think Willem Dafoe had like different motivations. I really do. I think that the character Goblin just had a motivation to escape, you know, and like go. And so like he's just got Peter, you know, beaten to a pulp, and Aunt May is like, you know, trying to help him. And what any good mother figure would do right there.
And it's the thing that she was the one to encourage him in the first place to help him. She talked to Green Goblin before he talked to Peter.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So of course she would be like, even if she wasn't like the mother, even if she was just like his friend or something, she would still run in there, I feel like, to be like, I'm the one that introduced you to this person.
Yes, and that all plays into the emotions you have as an audience member in this moment, because you realize like Aunt May is unfortunately the one that convinced Peter to try to help them. And she knows she fucked up in that.
Plus, you know, all of the metaphorical things and analysis behind what the character of Aunt May means to Peter. And I mean, we'll talk about it, but we'll get to it in about 2 minutes, I feel like.
Sure, but let me say this really quick. The things that I keep confusing. Goblin said in the speech to get all the villains to rally, put this above the performance we got in the previous Spider-Man movies from him. Like it just did, and that showed that Willem just took it to another level.
And it was really the demasking too, which I've heard people talk about. Like, not only is him smashing his mask like good for his character in that moment because he wants to be Norman, but it's also symbolic in that, you know, in the first Spider-Man, so much of his performance was behind the mask, and here he literally is smashing it and being like, no, I can give you Willem Dafoe can give you a better Green Goblin performance than that mask
just
ever
through
could.
The look, 100%.
You know, so.
And that's the other reason I feel like the Goblin just took over in that moment, you know, is because he did want to just, you know, humanize him, because now we just got this psychopath on our hands, like a psychopath that's been like, he's taken his serum and he's like a superhuman now, and
has been calm for a moment. Like I remember in the speech, he says something like, I've been watching you, Peter, from behind the eyes of the scientist or whatever. He says something like that, like I've been watching you and your weak decisions or something, like, you know what I mean? Like a psychopath who has been like chill for a moment and feels like that was too much and now is going back to it. That's another totally complex character thing to deal with.
The way that this movie just switched from fun superhero romp to fucking horror film is unreal. Like, can you believe it? I mean, it's crazy because, and then so Willem's like, what he said something to him like I almost said like you should have went for the head, but it was something like that. Like I liken whatever he said to Peter
No,
to that.
yeah, I know what you mean.
But
It
it
was
wasn't
something
that
like
line.
that.
But it was
Yeah,
something
it
like I
was something
liken
like
it to that Thanos
I
line.
know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And then like the glider comes through and hits Aunt May. And you're like, there's no way she's getting out of it. Right?
I thought she was immediately dead the moment
Right.
the thing came through. I was shocked that she even got up.
So
I thought she was dead. She was
goes flying through the air because the glider hits her, and then Willem escapes, and then you're like, oh my god. And then Peter gets Aunt May. He's like, okay, we're okay, right? And then she's like, yeah, and then she one moment became Peter Parker's Uncle Ben.
Yeah, she became everything.
Then you realize, well, maybe not right off the bat, but I realized through this whole thing, Uncle Ben is irrelevant to Peter's universe, at least Tom Holland's Peter universe. It's Aunt May all the way, because Aunt May is their Uncle Ben, and I thought that was just brilliant screenwriting, brilliant filmmaking. Everything about it was just fantastic. The performance, and then she says the line,
and it really did just so just really did also, like, again, that was when it hit me that, oh my god, I was also one of the people who was like, oh, we just missed Peter's origin story. Right. Like that moment happened with an Uncle Ben that we haven't seen, that hopefully we'll hear about soon. But we haven't seen that. And in that moment, I was like, we've been watching his origin story the entire time.
Yeah.
This is it.
And so,
it's not like how we've seen before, but this is it. Yeah,
I'll be honest.
That was big for so many reasons. That moment was huge.
Is the other reason
a phone went off during that moment, and it was kind of hilarious though, because it was in like, I was in like the upper section of the movie theater, in like the first row of the upper section, and in like the lower section was where the phone went off, and it sounded like they answered it. I'm not for sure, they might have just been talking, but then someone in their row just goes, "Shut that shit off," and then like everybody else in that row started like cackling.
Oh yeah.
All while Aunt May is dying.
Right.
She's dying.
I'm actually glad you brought up that experience, because I think the beautiful thing about this moment, because then
funny in retrospect,
she does fall, and the movie got me. I actually thought they were both going to make it out for a second. That's the other good thing for me, anyway.
Once she said the line, though, I was like, oh no, she gone.
Oh really?
She dead.
It wasn't
because the thing. A big reason of that line is just that the person who says it is no longer with us. That it's not only was that line said, but that line was said by someone who died basically immediately after,
Yeah.
So when she said it, I was like, unless they're going to change it, the person who says that line dies.
Yeah.
That's why also sometimes I worry about Ned, because like, is the fate of Peter Parker's best friend not to turn on him and become a villain? I worry
about a lot of things after watching this movie, but anyway. Aunt May, it was when she started like doing the shaky thing. She started shaking a little bit. Oh, that was the other moment too. She says, "Let's get the out of here." Like they were trying to like cut out an F-bomb. So that was the other nitpicky moment. But then she starts shaking, and I'm like, oh shit. So the movie did still get me at that moment. And she goes down, and Peter's like, "We're okay." And that moment, I said, "She's done." And then Peter finds the blood under her. And he's looking, which I thought was brilliantly executed. And he finds the blood. He's like, he knows she's kind of done, I think, too. And he's just trying to comfort her, which I thought this moment got me. I mean, because it did. Because to see him know that she's done and that something bad's going to happen, he knows it. But he's just trying to comfort her. And it was that love between the two that just, like, it got me in so many ways. And like him just saying like, you're okay, nothing's going on, don't worry about it. And then she dies, and he's like, well, just get up and talk to me, like, what are you doing right now, and Tom Holland's performance was next level.
Because see, to me, like, I still love that performance, but for a different reason. For me, it was more like that. It was like a child. It was more of like a child not knowing what's going on, kind of, where he sees like Ant-Man go, or I said Ant-Man. He sees Ant-Man go down. He sees Aunt May go down, and he's like, "No, you're okay. You're okay. No, you're okay. You're okay." Because he doesn't. His brain will not literally accept the fact that she's dying in front of him right now.
Like part of his brain, I think, knew, but then the other part was like not processing it right away. And then like, so it was like
his brain this is a big thing in psychology where it's like his brain realized that it was not safe for him to know that she's dying. So it just rejects it.
When he's just like, and
by the way, acted all of that.
The Jon Favreau performance, I'm going to tell you why. As Happy here is also it made it my favorite Happy performance from Favreau. When he's like, Peter, run. I'll tell you why. Because you could do that. I've seen that because people say that in intense movies all the time, the run line. And I've seen that played really cheesy. The way Favreau did it, it had like emotion behind it. Like it like really felt like good. You know, it felt right. Because Happy pulled up and he knew. And I love that. And there was the look in his eye.
Yeah.
It just
constant string throughout this movie is incredibly deep, beautiful themes just not being said, but you understand it because of just what's going on with everyone. Yeah.
And 100%. And Peter, looking, he's holding Aunt May and like just when he's kissing her forehead and saying, I'm so sorry and all that, it was beautiful and it really got me. You see the tears in his eyes and it just felt so authentic. It was some of the best emotion I've ever seen it portrayed in a Marvel movie. All hope is lost. Peter's looking at the screen and J. Jonah Jameson. Great stuff.
That was probably one of the most beautiful shots I have ever seen maybe in my life.
Of him
in the rain watching the screen. Like literally I was just sitting there like dumbfounded. I could not believe that was art. I want that framed and put in my house. That was one of the most beautiful things. Again, also straight out of a comic book. I can picture that comic book panel right now in my head. Easy.
100%.
It was beautiful. Beautiful, that shot.
And so here's to me what's so brilliant about this movie too. And again, this is why to me it exceeds better or more than some of the other fan service movies that we've had, or the event films, I should say, more or less. While again, I love Infinity War, I love my Endgame, I love all that. But this is why it exceeds. Because at this moment, I told myself in my mind, I don't care if Toby and Andrew show up anymore. This movie's going to some great places. Doesn't matter. But all hope is lost. And then we get MJ
immediately after.
And Ned in the living room. Yeah. This is not the point I would have thought, hey, Toby and Andrew are coming. It didn't cross my mind. But
I first thought it was that they had found Peter. Like I legitimately thought that was they had just found Peter and that something was going on.
Yeah.
Like it didn't fully register for me. Like my audience had kind of stirred.
Yeah,
like we were getting like up there, but there wasn't a scream, and I also didn't register it until the mask had come off and it was the reveal, and I was like,
well,
and everybody
first thing I'll say here though about the sequence is Ned and MJ actually have good chemistry too. Like they really do well together too.
You can tell they're very good friends.
Yeah, they work,
and I mean they stayed well. They stay friends. I love that they stayed friends too.
Yeah,
at the end, I feel like that's going to be my prediction. Just real quick for. I know we're gonna talk about that later, but for like other movies, I feel like it's a thing where they're gonna be really good friends, but they can't remember like why they're friends.
Right.
They just know that they need each other in their life, and they don't know why.
Yeah,
that kind of a thing, which I'm really interested for future movies. But no, honestly, they are incredible friends. You can tell.
100%, and they did well in the scene, and they set that up really nicely. And. So Ned, like he says, like, I wish I could see him, because we wish Peter were here. I wish I could see him. See a little spark.
Oh, and that was great too. Just like show me Peter Parker, of him being like, show me Peter Parker. Yeah. That was great.
The subtleness of the spark too was phenomenal, because it was like, just a little thing. We're not thinking about Andrew, Andrew Garfield. But
that wasn't my first thought.
Lo and behold, he says, I wish I could, or show me Peter Parker, and then he opens up a portal, and we see somebody in the Andrew Garfield suit. Doesn't confirm anything. It could be Tom Holland from a different, who knows?
Yeah.
But then he takes off the mask against Andrew, and the theater erupted like I was at a fucking rock concert.
It was literally like your favorite team had just hit a home run in the last second of the World Series. It was like that.
That's how it felt. That's the other reason it's brilliant to me. Like it's because it's like all hope is gone. That's when we're going to bring him in. When you're not thinking about it, when you're thinking about it, the very least is when we're going to bring it in.
Right.
Because like I feel like with Infinity War and Endgame, I love the movies. Like the thing I was thinking the whole time is, okay, when's Cap gonna come in? When are the Guardians gonna meet Thor? When are like you're thinking about all that the whole time?
Even like in Endgame of like when they bring everybody back and Hawkeye gets the call from his wife, but you don't see anybody else. Like, you're like, well, they are back.
They're
out
coming
there.
back, right?
So
Like, it's gonna
when
happen.
are they showing up? Yeah.
So when are they showing up, right?
Even when Cap is like walking alone all by himself, part of me at least was like, okay, but they're out there. When are they showing up?
Yeah, this
in 3, 2, 1.
Not making you divert from the story at hand. It's still focused on Tom. You're just thinking about what's going on with Tom. Andrew walks out and he reveals it, and it's brilliant, and the scene is great. And like, now I'll be honest, I was like, when he first came out and he was like, I'm Spider-Man, I am from a different universe, I was a little off on that. But
here's the thing, real quick. This is also just how Andrew, I feel like, so there's a lot of people being like, I feel like Andrew Garfield was playing Andrew Garfield playing Spider-Man. Right. He wasn't playing like his version of Peter Parker. And the thing is, like, I get that, but is that not kind of how he's always been? He has always been like this. This is the kid that like jumped over a railing by the river to like talk to his friend when he got like annoyed. You know what I mean? This is the kid that like, you see the gesticulations and the mannerisms of this kid in the Mark Webb movies. Like, that's who he is.
Yeah, I just don't care. Yeah, that was me. Like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
I just don't care. I was happy to see him in this part.
Because
in this moment, let me have it. I don't care.
Andrew mother effing Garfield. Like, Andrew mother effing Garfield is one of the most incredible actors I have ever seen with my eyeballs in my any actor that these eyeballs have seen, he is in the top 5 for sure. He is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's just the way he says words. It's just like unlike any other person. It's it's always the way Andrew Garfield does it. It's never like anybody else. And it's so weird and so quirky and so charming and so wonderful. Like,
and when he starts interacting with MJ and all that, like, I just was like, I'm back home, Yeah. I really am. Like,
the whole thing of like sticking to the wall, being like, this isn't enough. It's like, yes, this is enough. And I'm just like, no, it's not. And be like, it's enough. This is enough.
I was right back home. And I know the movie's called No Way Home, but I was right back home. Right there. And no, for real though. I mean, because Andrew, he's like, he's like, you're a very distrusting person, and I respect it.
Right. That's what he says. I respect that. Yeah.
And then he's like not gonna crawl around until the grandma comes in and is like, he's like, hey, grandma wants to know if you can get that cobweb for her. He's like, because I'm a good guy. I could do that.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I love that, like, that was the reason why he crawled around. It wasn't because, like, these kids are forcing him and doesn't believe him. It's because grandma politely asked if he can go get the web down.
The second he shows up, Toby's next. You know it. But it
was like,
matter.
Okay, 5, 4, 3,
It doesn't matter. And, like, because then MJ says the line, right? Like, she's like, we just gotta keep doing it till we find the right one. And you're like, okay, Toby's definitely next.
Yeah.
And then
my gosh, and I love too how I think she says something like, okay, we have to find the real Peter Parker, because Andrew's then like, hey.
Yeah.
He says something like that.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
So she's like, so he opens the other portal and out walks Tobey Maguire. The theater erupted in a way that I've never seen a theater erupt in my entire life. And I was with them. I was there. I was with them, and I was like, this is the OG. This is the first DVD I own. This is the original Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable just to see him. I don't care. And that's the other thing. It's like, in that moment as a fan, you're like, I don't care how good they do in this movie. I just want them to be here.
I just love seeing them. It's like seeing like a friend. It's literally like seeing a friend you haven't seen in 20 years. And then you see them again and you're like, it's you.
Right.
Like, you're just so happy to see them and be with them again.
And both
it doesn't matter like what you're talking about. You're just happy to see him.
Are playing Peter Parker again in this moment. Yeah. And it's just unbelievable. And you see them kind of get into this little fight with the webs, and the theater erupted again when that happened, and it was just cool and amazing. And my emotions.
I thought, I was like, were they about to fight? Is this about to be like they don't trust each other situation? That's what I thought for a moment.
You're right. Yeah. And I loved that so much. And it was just good. It was a good fan service moment, because it didn't last that long. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like it was just like, we're going to do this really quick. It lasted
as long as it needed to. Right. And no shorter, no longer. Yeah.
And it just felt like good fan service. But then you get, Ned and MJ. Well, you find out that Peter and Andrew, they're there to help Tom Holland. They realize that there's something going on
Yeah,
with
I
this
love
guy.
that.
They're
They're like they both are like we have weird feelings. I don't know.
because they're there for purpose, and you understand that like after they say what they say, and then
Yeah.
we get this moment that made me emotional as well. This is like the second time I cried after the Aunt May thing, where Peter's sitting on the roof just alone, and Ned and MJ go
This is
up
the
there.
first time I cried.
They hug him, and they are all bawling. And you know what made it work? I'll tell you what made it work. There was no score behind it.
That's right.
It was raw.
There wasn't,
was just, we're gonna let you absorb this moment in a raw and real way.
It's because the law usually is like you put music in moments where it seems like there should be music there. You know what I mean? Like very heightened like look at like moments like E.T. is one of my favorite scores of all time. When he's flying over the moon with E.T., doesn't it feel like there should be music there to heighten that?
Yeah.
But in moments like this, it's like there doesn't need to be music there. The words that they are saying heighten it enough that it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like this is about the words right now. This isn't about like, it doesn't need to be heightened at all. The words do it for
And that's nothing against Michael
them.
Giacchino, because I actually think this is my favorite Michael Giacchino score in his entire career.
Yeah, it's just that it takes a very wise and smart composer to know when the scene sings for itself, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
it's music in itself. It does not need actual music.
Giacchino watched that and said, I want to let this play, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it speaks for itself. Because a lot of times music in movies too is to help you feel what you're supposed to feel, you know, and it's like everyone's gonna feel the same way, and we don't need music here.
We just let their bond speak for itself, right? And like, because we've had 2 movies to set it up, and and Ned especially here, like, because like I love Zendaya in this movie, I'll get to that later, but like Ned especially, when it's just like a guy friend just holding his male friend like in a heterosexual way, it just hits you so much harder, because it's like this is just a buddy who knows what his friend's going through. I was very scared for Ned in this movie, because Ned really annoyed me in No Way Home, or not No Way Home, Far From Home.
Yeah.
In this movie, he brought it back to me. He was like just holding his friend and being like, that's all you can ask for from a friend. You know, like I just lost my cat not that long ago, and like my friend came over the next day. I just remember him giving me, like, my best friend in the world, he gave me the biggest hug in the world, and like we just sat there for a moment. So I've been there, you know, and it was just like I know what that's like, you know, and so like that I felt the bond there. And
on a quick side note, I just really, not thinking about it, it was a very, very good representation of how to present masculinity in a way that is not toxic.
100%.
For it to still be completely masculine and have all 3 Spider-Men still be Spider-Men and still have emotions and deep moments that are not toxic, that are not, you know, too girly. That's what they mean. Like, you know, it was beautiful, because I thought about that too, that like, especially when the 3 Spider-Men are talking to each other, it would be so easy to me. I would think like I would be like, oh, they'd probably be like busting each other's balls type of a thing, and like making all these self-deprecating jokes to try to like one up each other.
Right.
But they don't. It's not about like who's the best one. It's very much like a brother relationship, which I also loved, by the way, that like it very much felt like an older brother, middle brother, younger brother situation. And that's not necessarily about trying to prove who's better. It's about trying to hype each other up.
Exactly. That's how I thought it would have been. And they just gave me something so much better.
Because so many dudes are like, well, what all masculinity is toxic. And I'm like, what is this then?
Yeah.
Explain this movie then.
Exactly.
You know,
I agree with you 100%, Samee. I think that's a lot of what made it work. And because they say we brought some people with us, right? And then Tom Holland looks up, and then
like, there's some people here to see you, I think, kind of a thing. Yeah.
Right. But I know it was fan service, but it was also a phenomenal shot of the silhouette of the 2. Like, and it was great. And then they jump down, then they come down, and they have an honest, real. This is where the score starts to kick in too, granted, and like they play back the old ones, but it worked. It worked, and like everything, like, and it was the reason why is because in this moment I realized, okay, these Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield came into this movie to act. They were here to act. And they weren't just
Yes.
here to be here. They didn't come for a paycheck. They came here to act, and they came here to give a good wrap up to everything they've done in the past. And that's what makes it work.
They really just for like, we're gonna let three iconic, incredible actors play one of the most iconic, incredible roles of all time, and we're just gonna let them go off and do their thing.
Cried again. Because Toby's talking about Uncle Ben, and we were like, okay, that makes sense.
That was the scene, especially when at the end when they're like, "That's what Uncle Ben said to us." That was that whole scene. I was sobbing the whole way through that.
Not only that, because Toby brings up Uncle Ben, which Andrew's also gone through, and he understands it. But then Andrew, like, and he does it so well. I lost Gwen.
Of it all.
I'm not kidding you. The second he said I lost
that
Gwen,
was a lot for me.
Up.
Yeah,
I teared up
that was
because
a lot.
The way he said it and his delivery.
Yeah,
Andrew Garfield needs to be praised for this movie. He is so good.
One of the best actors
I know.
I've ever seen in my life,
so good
man.
This movie, like when he said, and you were saying this before we saw this film. Like you were saying this in our pre-game show.
Yeah,
where you were like, Andrew Garfield's so talented. He
came
to play. He came to play, right? And like he came to work this day. He showed up, and he was like, I lost Gwen. He gives the bigger speech than Toby. Like, let's be real. And then Toby says, like, with great power. Oh, Tom Holland says with great power, and then Toby finishes it with great responsibility. And he's like, how did you know that? And Andrew says, that's he says that's what Uncle Ben told us, right?
I could cry right now.
Yes, it was so good. So to make something actually dramatic, and it just makes this movie feel all the more grounded. I know we're in this like fantastical multiverse, but they wanted to do this very differently.
The drama and the character moments are very grounded.
Yes.
Nonetheless.
They were like, let's make the audience buy this because we want to make actual grounded character moments between the two. We don't want this to make it feel like, oh, anything can happen. It's just the multiverse. We're having fun. No, we want to make actual moments that are character driven and like we're gonna, you know what I mean? It's not just like the three Spider-Men are showing up for a fight. It's so much more. And the other thing here too is the fact that Andrew is like just so, I don't know how to explain it, but he's got this way about him to where he's like, I don't know. He's kind of I'm going into the laboratory stuff here, I guess, but like, because that's the next part, but like, he's so like, he's funny, but he's also like very endearing because he's got this way about him to where he's like, he's not just like, he's got like, it's a self-awareness, but it's a performance though. It's a performance that like, you just don't expect. And like Toby,
I know, I'm trying to think of how to describe it because it's self-aware, but still charming and very personable, but also he doesn't change himself for anybody else. You know what I mean?
Here's what I'm getting at, I guess, for me, because
he's very but it's quirky, but it's also like cool.
Here's the overall picture of it. I expected to be, and I was at the time when they showed up, more excited for Toby. But Andrew Garfield of the three, or
I
the
think
two,
he stole every scene.
I think he was brought it.
He really stole the show for me,
which is insane. Oh, one more thing about when they were talking though. I love that Tom Holland said, "Don't tell me that you know what I'm going through," and they didn't. They both like kind of got quiet for a second.
Yeah,
and Toby said,
because they know if they had said that to someone, they would not want a response. You know.
Right, and Toby said, and Toby didn't tell him, "I know what you're going through." All he said is what he went through.
Yeah,
and then that just made Tom Holland realize, oh, wait a minute,
right now,
man. I know.
Yeah,
amazing. But the laboratory was great because they're all trying to figure out this shit and like how we can stop it. And we got the point, which was a great fan servicey moment. That's straight out of the animated series. It was great.
And I love Peter. Peter Parker.
Right, Peter.
Peter.
Yeah, it was great. And all this stuff felt real. You know, it all felt real. That's the other thing about it.
Natural and real, yeah.
This is exactly how it would be. I loved Ned's hesitancy after Toby told him what happened to Harry Osborn. So, by the way,
I was so happy. That was that was a big thing I wanted to have happen.
I love that
for Ned to know about Harry a little bit at least. Yeah.
Everything that you know. Okay, so this moment is becoming though Amazing Spider-Man 3 and Spider-Man 4 all in one scene.
It really did.
All in one sequence because they're carrying it all forward. It's not there to be there. This is why it exceeds. It's not there to be there. It's there because we want to give these guys a good ending that they never had. It's
Mhm.
all coming forward. It's
And I
all
think, yeah,
canon now.
honestly, yeah. And I think like I think it was the perfect amount in like in overall and everything. He said the perfect amount of things about his MJ. But like when Toby says the thing about like, yeah, you know, me and MJ, we like it took some time, but we figured
But we
things
made it
out.
work.
I was like, Toby, you have to tell me every detail
I
of your
know, I
relationship.
agree.
You can't just drop a nugget like that because immediately I was like, so tell
Yeah.
me, I'm like, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna get drinks, and you're gonna tell me everything.
As a fan, I was
But
absolutely in that camp.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in the moment,
yeah.
he said the right amount. He said the perfect
Yes.
thing. He really did. It just in the
Yeah.
fangirl heart, you're like,
Well,
what do you mean? Tell me everything. I
One
wanna
of the
know.
things we said in our predictions or pre-show was that, you know, they need to be there to serve Tom. And every moment of it was serving Tom. It wasn't there for them.
Mhm.
But I will say this, it was more about them than I thought it was going to be. And which is funny because that's the other thing we said in our predictions. I don't know how I got this right because I was like, I bet you they touch on themselves briefly as a where are they now?
No, and yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the perfect amount too. Yeah.
And that's only because
and it was in their
ahead.
actions towards Tom, it also reflected back on their actions and their storyline. You know, like they weren't doing anything solely for the sake of, you know, themselves or for Tom. Like it was a mixture of both.
Right.
Where like, I mean, like the big moment, you know, of Andrew saving, you know, MJ, like that is both in service to Tom and to himself.
Yeah.
Same with like Toby stopping him from killing Green Goblin.
100%.
In service of Tom and himself.
The where are they now of it all made it to where it was like it served the prior moment, you know? And so like that's why I liked it. And the only reason I predicted that was because I got slipped a scoop about like a year ago where somebody told me that they were going to be a bigger part of this than people are going to think, you know? And that's 100% true. It was 100% true. They are a bigger part of this than we thought. But even then I was skeptical, obviously, you know, like I said, I think I said I was like a 60% that they'll touch on where are they now.
Yeah,
they definitely were. They definitely did it all. And, you know, and then so they figure this out, right? And then they got this big plan that's going to open the portal to the Statue of Liberty where they're all going to meet up. And then they're still having conversations that are great. And this part's hysterical. Andrew Garfield cracking the back, them touching on Toby's web shooters. Oh my God.
That was great.
And Tom saying, oh, can you just shoot them out of, you know, your hands or they come from anywhere else? Hey.
And that's what I mean. You know, it would have been so like, even like Toby says that he's like, are you guys teasing me? Are you making fun of me? And Tom's like, no, we want to know, you know? And even like Andrew says it, but he's like, it was personal, you know, I don't want to pry or nothing, you know, but we want to know.
And
that is how you talk to people.
Right, exactly. Like, and that's why it worked. It wasn't just like we're acknowledging this to be funny. We're acknowledging this because it's something that people might genuinely wonder. It's funny, and but something that
a Peter Parker who can't do that would immediately have questions about to one who does, and vice versa.
I love too. I mean, we'll touch on this. I mean, he was like, have you ever had a web block? He's like, oh, wait, now that you mentioned it, I did have a web block. And we know this. We know this from Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
And then, like, not only that, it was like Tom Holland, you know, he said, I fought an alien with, like, black goo once. We know that's Venom.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
And then Tom Holland say,
Andrew's like, I want to fight an alien.
Well, right, because Tom Holland's like, I fought, like, a purple alien in space. And Toby's like, wait a minute, I'm still stuck on this thing about you fought a purple alien in space. And then Andrew Garfield being like, he was like, yeah, I want to fight an alien. He's like, I'm lame. He was like,
he's like, I fought like a Russian guy. He's like, I fought a Russian guy in like a rhino suit.
And I love that because everybody's in total agreement that might be the worst performance Paul Giamatti's ever given in his life. And
I feel it literally, like, I blocked it out from my mind when he said that. I was like, what do you mean? What really? Russian dude? I'm like, I'm so bad I blocked it out.
You know why I loved it? Because I feel like even Paul Giamatti watched that and laughed at it, you know, because like that's how I feel like about it. Is like, to
be fair, he's not in much of the movie.
No.
Amazing Spider-Man.
No, but it was the worst. You know, it was the worst Paul Giamatti performance you could think of. And the fact that they were self-aware of that. I love Toby. And the audience cheered when this happened for me is when he was like, can I say something? You're not lame. You're amazing. Just let that sink in. You're amazing. And the audience like clapped at that moment for me. It was great. And then they're like,
I don't know if there were rumors that there were rumors that they weren't at the premiere, but I really hope Toby and Andrew get to see this at least once with a
like
huge
people.
crowd.
Yeah, me too.
Because they deserve it. It feels the same way how Hayden Christensen the last time he went to like Star Wars Celebration,
right?
He got like a huge applause, and it's just like, because you deserve it. Like, well, we've come to a point where we're like, we were mean in the 2000s. We were mean, and we're sorry.
Yeah,
and they deserve to know that, like, we love them now.
Yeah, well, let me say that too. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the other thing that made me feel so great about Andrew's entrance and people like cheering for him was like, we accepted him into the Spider family. You know, like we as fans have decided, you know what? He made an effort. We've accepted him, and like those fans that were there cheering, I was like, these are great people.
And
because we still.
And I don't think it was. He was never the issue.
Never.
It was the
and
movie
we realized
around
that
him.
over time. You know,
and this proves it, because so many people are saying that Andrew was the one that stole the show in this.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it's because he was never bad. It was the movies.
Yeah.
He was never bad.
He always put the effort, and this made us realize it more, and definitely. But they go out there because all the villains start showing up, right? And then they go out there to fight, and it's like, it's super clunky. It's not working out. It's not going well for them. They're like, we just don't know how to do this. Let me say this too.
And he's like, dude, I worked in a team once. It's called the Avengers. Also, I love that the way it would have been so easy for him to be like, oh, what the hell is that? That's so stupid. I've never heard of it before. But he's not. He's like, whoa, he can see that Tom's excited about it. So he's like, whoa, the Avengers?
He's like, the Avengers? That's
what
great.
Is that?
What is that? He was just trying to be supportive of it. Yeah.
Beautiful,
I agree. And, you know, the other thing about this, too, like, let me say this, because this is the moment where they really all start to come together brilliantly. And
this is also my favorite joke. The hardest I laughed was at Peter 3.
Oh, Peter 3 was my
favorite.
Yeah, that's another great Andrew moment, because I thought that was like some of the most consistent stuff with the way he approached Spider-Man. But going into that, this is why it works. 2 is because you think, okay, 3 Spider-Man, it'll be cool to see. You know, 3 Spider-Man. But they've all approached this so differently, so I doubt the chemistry will be like as on point as it actually was. It was so on point. It's
because it was very a big brother, middle brother, little brother situation, you know, and that dynamic works pretty much every time.
You know, it's weird.
And that's how they made it.
You might not
but that's also how we see it, you know, like we as an audience member have that seniority for Toby. And we have that kind of little brother young feeling for Tom, and then Andrew's kind of, you know, the middle one.
You know, it's weird. You might not have seen this, but it reminded me of The Outsiders with Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, and C. Thomas Howell. That's how it reminded me of. That's what it reminded me of. I was like, in a way, because
that makes sense. Yeah,
they definitely carried that dynamic forward. It just worked out so well. But anyway, no, you're right. And then the 3 Spider-Men go into battle, and everybody erupted in the theater.
That moon shot with them behind the moon, man.
Great.
They all land.
Yeah. And the Campia photos were real. But yeah,
that was the thing. That was one of the things I texted you when it was over. I was like, oh, I can't believe those Campia photos for real.
Which he spoiled in his non-spoiler review. He was like, oh, side note, I know a lot of people are emailing me about those photos being real. It's like, Campia, you're in a non-spoiler review. Stop it right now. No. Bullshit. But anyway.
But that was one of my first thoughts. I was like, huh, wow.
No, they were real. Hey, look at that. Well, who'd have thought?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Who'd have thought?
I knew they were real.
Not me.
When I saw them, I knew they were real.
I didn't think they were real, to be honest. Yeah.
When I saw them, I was like, these look legit. I think they're real.
I admit that once we got to like that Matt Murdock scene, I was like, oh.
The other reason too is because Campia explained like the next day on a show how Sony actually called them and made them take it down. I was like, oh well, then they gotta be real. They gotta be real. But anyway, so yeah, but then when they go into battle, it's epic. It doesn't matter if those photos are real or not, or if you saw them. When they go into battle, you're erupting in the theater because that theater again just felt like a rock concert. They're going into battle. It's working out. You know, they got the dynamic back in place. It's great. The other thing I would say about that too is the lizard kick was Andrew. You know, we got that because in the Brazilian trailer we were all like, who kicked the lizard? It was Andrew. Yeah, so it was great.
It was Andrew.
We all saw that.
I was looking for that too. In that shot, I literally was looking at the lizard. I was like, who's it gonna be?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
And it was Andrew, and
it was Andrew.
which made so much sense, and it was an awesome moment. And
They
watching them,
mainly fight their own villains for a majority. Like, I mean, most of them by the end are Andrews, but like, they tend to go to theme. Like they match them with ones that they purposefully match them together.
Yeah, by the way, that was such a spider. This just shows how great Andrew actually was as Spider-Man, is when he swung out and he saw Electro and he was like, "Hey, Max," you know what I mean? Been a while.
Yeah.
Like, that was so Spider-Man of him.
That was so Andrew Garfield Spider-Man too, that to call him out like that.
Yeah. But they're fighting, and Doctor Strange comes back through, right? And like they're trying to cure him at the same time, and they are. It's working.
And
so far.
They're curing everybody.
I love that Doctor Strange came back through and saw the plan and wasn't like, we can't do this. He was like, I'll be damned, it's actually working. He was actually like, wow, I can't believe the kid pulled it off, type of thing. And it's working out and everything. And then he's like, but people got to understand, Doctor Strange, his career is based on keeping time in place and keeping that's what helps the universe. So he's like, he kind of goes back to it. He's like, but we got to send them back. It doesn't matter if he's curing them or not, we have to send them back. But
so you see all like the other people start to seep in,
and they get them all
which
cured.
Again, we all thought that was like a Wanda or Loki kind of situation. The kind of cracks in that universe. I definitely thought it was going to be that, and I was like, oh no, it's all the same spell.
I love
just the spell
exactly. But I love when Toby they got Flip Marco cured. I hate Spider-Man 3, but I love the moment of seeing Flip Marco back again, because Toby almost got a little emotional seeing like, oh, you're okay now, thank God, because Toby knew what would happen, otherwise, and he was like, it was great. And like, I don't think I've ever seen Thomas Hayden Church do a lot of dramatic work after Spider-Man 3. He's typically in comedies anymore, but like, it's just, so I love seeing him in dramatic work too, because he is a good actor. I just have problems with the approach to that character, but it was cool to see. And then we get the Reese moment with Andrew, and like, I liked it. I thought it was like, okay, cool, it is Reese, and it paid off, and I like that. But then what happens is they're all cured, but then here comes Goblin, like, he puts the bomb in the middle of the box that's gonna reverse all this shit and make it better, and then blows up. Tower goes down, and then falls MJ, and I think like everybody was in suspense in that moment.
That was the second time I cried.
Yes.
And B, one of the biggest eruptions of the evening.
Well, Tom's going down moment. And don't know how I called this moment, but Tom's going down.
Yeah, and you did say that it was going to be close,
don't know
like
how.
That, yeah.
I thought it was a stretch, but hey, it happened. Tom's going down. And
they did totally believe, especially after seeing it in the trailer, that it was going to go down, but it you know what I mean? Knowing that something's going to happen, but then actually watching it go down is two different experiences.
It still played so much better just watching it. Right, exactly. I agree. And then Tom,
the face he gives to MJ after he caught her, where he basically says, he just says like, "Are you okay?" And that's all that needs to be said in that moment, and you get it.
It's funny. I'm watching people because this got recorded on cell phones. Apparently, I saw this on YouTube. It popped up on my feed where people are editing and
on TikTok too. There are so many videos on TikTok. I kind of can't believe it. Like there has never been a time where footage from a movie is just immediately available anywhere on the internet.
Now that the movie's out, I'm starting to see it flood in for sure. But so Tom gets hit with
it's all over TikTok.
Tom gets hit with the glider, and of course Andrew goes after her. And like he catches her, and you're right, the face is but like I said, I've been seeing
and the way that he like dives down, catches her first, and then shoots the web, doesn't try to do the web thing again.
I loved it because he was like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah," but then he sees her crying, and she's like, "Are you okay?
Are you okay?"
And it was amazing. And then people are making edits on YouTube of like that scene with like the Gwen Stacy flashbacks, and I'm like, it's cool and all, it's cool, and it gets you, but is it necessary? It wasn't.
The emotions are a lot.
True, but it wasn't necessary, because you're right. Andrew just showed everything he needed to show right there.
Yeah,
and you just know that this was a big moment for him. Loved it. Yes, it's one of the best moments in the movie, and it's great because it carries something forward from his films that just you kind of always wanted to see in a way. Just him get redemption.
And again, it's the redemption. It's the making better of a situation, and the
Genuinely,
responsibility of not letting the same thing happen twice.
Genuinely,
because like, you know, because they say like he knows what will happen to Tom if MJ dies right now, and the same of like Toby knows what's going to happen to him if he kills the Green Goblin right now,
right?
And they're not going to let him do that.
Yeah,
that is
there's nothing
phenomenal. Yeah.
like a redemption story.
Mhm.
There really isn't, and that just shows it right here. But then we get Tom Holland going after Goblin. Tom Holland deserves an Oscar nod, at least.
Again, there's barely any dialogue here.
Yeah.
And yet we're all like dissecting the hell out of it. That
Yeah.
is even like, that was another moment where I didn't fully cry, but I got choked up when once Toby stops him. And it's just, he just gives him the look. They just look at each other.
Well,
and Tom just, you just see him, he just knows, like he knows exactly what Toby's trying to tell him.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get into that because right prior to that,
Yes.
Tom Holland is one-on-one with Green Goblin, and this is the movie letting you know again we're still making this Tom Holland story. This is still his story. Because like they're going one-on-one and Tom's like, you know, I just want to kill you myself, and you understand the rage coming from Tom. That's the thing. And it's amazing. The action is actually really good here. When he like jumped up and like slammed down on the ground and it pushed Goblin back a little bit, it felt like it was right out of the comic books. It was incredible. And then like the fight was amazing when he like takes the web and then slams Goblin on the ground. It was like, oh my god, it like pulls him over his head. This is one of the most
like
brutal
that
fights
he, like,
in the MCU.
Goes back for the sled, I was gonna call, what is it?
Yeah.
The thing, and like goes back and has to walk over to it, and you see his face like just with like complete like grief and revenge and hatred just in his face as he walks back.
I love the sound design of the punches too. When he's punching them, and you just hear them like they go from like regular punch sound effects to like
superheroes punching each other sound effects.
Amazing. It's dramatic. It's brutal. It's everything. And like anyway, but yeah, there were so many moments. Like even when he was like dodging Goblin's punches, like to me that was like it was straight out of the comics. You know what I mean? It was like oh my god, Tom Holland is Spider-Man right there.
Yeah,
he became the definitive Spider-Man for me in this moment. And like so when he
really is. It's hard to argue on so many levels to say that he's not the definitive one
now,
because he literally got the sign off from. He literally got trauma of. He has trauma of his own, but not only were they passing the torch to him, but they healed parts of his journey for him. They helped him, like, you know what I mean. The other two Spider-Men told him like the things that he shouldn't do in order to be the best of them. They both want him to be the best of them, you know. It's hard to argue against.
And so but you're right. So he picks up the glider. He's gonna get him with the glider, and we're all like, I think as an audience member, you're like, we've seen this before. We see know where this goes, and Toby knew it too. And Toby jumps in. I did get emotional. Like maybe I cried like 6 or 7 times in this movie, and again when I got home. But seriously, because Toby's looking at him with a smirk, like not like an evil smirk, but like a smile, you know, like a subtle smile. It's okay, you know, it's okay. You don't need to do this, you know, because he's done it before. And it just worked. It worked. And then Goblin stabs him, which I think was a good misdirect because you think he's going to die.
I didn't think, honestly, a lot of people said they like were shook and thought he was going to die. I didn't really think he was going to die.
I was like, oh my God.
I don't know what it was, but something in me was kind of just like, oh, a fake out.
Yeah. But
that's kind of how I felt. Yeah. And I really can't even tell you why I felt that way, but I was just not concerned with him dying in that moment.
Sure. I did think so, but that's fine. Andrew threw the serum at him though to cure him. And I loved it. It was just a good, really well timed out scene, really well paced. Threw the serum at him, and he just puts it in his neck, and he's like, and then that was it, right? And then you get Goblin. This is where I think he really became Norman again. It was like, Peter, what have I done? You know, and Toby's on the floor, just kind of smiling at him a little bit and being like, you know, he knows, you know what I mean? And then like. I love then Peter's like, we still have another problem because Doctor Strange is trying to stop these multiversal trespassers. Goes up there, and this is where the movie just teleports to something else again.
Yes.
And he goes up there, he's like, if we make the spell to where nobody remembers who I am, it doesn't work. And Strange very emotionally. And I love that even Doctor Strange got choked up when he told him. He was like, that's too much or something like that. We can't do it. And then
he says like all of us who love you will not be able to know. That's too much.
And Peter says, but will it work? It was just a good exchange. And Strange goes, it will work.
It was, and it was, again, it was Spider-Man being Spider-Man. It was his responsibility. He was the one who went to Strange and asked for the spell to happen. It's his responsibility.
Yeah. And Strange, and he's getting choked up, right? He's like, you got like 2 minutes to say goodbye. I just love that, like, Tom and, Tom went to go see Andrew and Toby and said goodbye to them first, personally.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because to me, that was like, made the most sense. It was like, because I want to have a bigger moment with MJ. I also love the Tobey Maguire grunt where he was like, and then Andrew was like, you're in pain, aren't you? He's like, oh yeah. That was hysterical to me. Like, I love that so much. That was awesome. But yeah, so Tom, then he goes to see MJ.
And we were having technical issues. Did we get what I was saying about how I love that, like, a lesser movie would have ended with him saying goodbye to all the other Peters,
no.
but
Go
this one chooses to end. We got that part. So I just really think it would have been so easy. Like, if this movie really was truly dedicated to fan service and fan service alone, the movie would have ended with him saying goodbye to the Peters last, and then you would have watched them walk into the sunset.
Agreed.
But that's not how this works. He just says goodbye to them. They have a hug. It's lovely. It's beautiful. We all cry. And then you don't even see them leave or anything. It's just, and then Peter goes off because that's the last time Tom's Peter saw them.
Right. And I love that he was like
all in service of the character.
By the way, go back into that though, because I love that moment. We missed this where Andrew Garfield like grabbed both of them and was like, I love you guys. And they were just both didn't know how to react. But at the end of the day, like, he goes and says goodbye to them, and he's like, and Toby's just like, yeah, man, this is what we do. We get it.
We do. Yeah.
We get it.
Right.
It's great.
You don't have to say thank you. Yeah. This is what we do.
Fantastic. But then he goes to say goodbye to Ned and MJ. So first of all, this moment with Ned and him is beautiful when he starts to tell him, like, you're not going to remember who I am. Ned and him just
they do the handshake, like,
yeah, and it was amazing. That was awesome because it's just like what teenagers would do. Then the moment with MJ and Peter, which I just think this just is well, first of all, I think it's a testament to how great Zendaya is as an actress, because this just like this is her best performance as MJ, and she brought everything she had into it.
Oh, for sure.
And then you just they have that, like, she's devastated, she's so devastated, and like I felt that and I cried, I probably cried like 10 times this whole movie. God damn it. But
I think but again, I think for me, I don't know if you're about to say this, but like for me, it's also the fact that I also really like, someone brought this up, that it's interesting to note that she is literally, they say her last name is like Jones Watson or something, but she doesn't like the Watson part of it or something, but she is MJ. So that literally means in this universe that she legitimately is a variant of Mary Jane Watson. Like, she is she literally is, without a doubt, that universe's MJ.
Yeah.
And like, I think all of that is built into that moment. But the great thing is so that being said, the thing about MJ, and like, I think the big thing about her and Peter's relationship is that she like, and why they have so many struggles. And it's so funny to like Into the Spider-Verse with like adult Peter that they talk about it, but like, it's a lot to be Peter Parker's girlfriend. It's a lot. You have to deal with so much. You have to know that like he's going to die maybe every time he leaves, and that he can't be there that long because there will always be someone who needs him. And that's a lot, but also the fact that she like understands that, and it's part of her journey to like cope with that. It's part of why, again, I love Spider-Man 2, because it ends with, MJ in the wedding dress gazing out the window, wondering where he's going. And I think it's the same here, where she understands, and why I love the dialogue of her saying like, I love you. And then he wants to say it back, and she goes, no, tell me when you see me again.
All right. Right.
Because that again, it inspires so much hope into not only him, but like that moment. and that kind of understanding of what's going on. Is that making, you know what I mean? No,
100%. I know, I do, because it broke me, and
Yeah.
and like, because of all those thoughts were going through my head, and just the way that they played the moment was just unreal. It really was. And when they like,
and again, there's so little dialogue, and I got all of that.
Like, it just, I know, that's
insane.
the thing. And like, even just like him looking back at her as he's swinging away, and she's got that tear coming out of her eye. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. In terms of a performance art, like, it's just incredible. And then like, this is, to me, like, even it brought, I knew Zendaya was an incredible actress, but she's never brought the full potential to MJ before, and they did here. Then is the moment, because he swings away, and like, they do the spell, and it reverses. Nobody knows who Peter is. But then we get this.
Sorry, I got a runny nose.
You're people. Okay. Then we get this very, what I would say, just boosts this movie into the next level moment. It's not just, so the coffee house scene, he's rehearsing his lines of what he's going to say to her when he sees her again. He gets into the coffee house.
Because he really does have full intentions. Like, the first thing he's going to do once this world goes back to normal is find Ned and MJ,
Yeah, he does.
Oh, and it makes it so much more sad, because it's like, he really wasn't intending to do that.
And he gets in there, and he sees MJ, but then Ned comes through and waves and smiles, and then but he's not waving at Peter, he's waving at MJ. And then you get to, and they're talking like they've never met before, even though Tom Holland knows this is the love of my life. He's sitting there talking to her, and this moment, it's not just the emotions of what's going on, it's part of that, but to me, what makes it so great, it's the coffee house, it's the lighting, it's the winter time, it's everything. Makes this a very honestly, like, Oscar moment, for me. Like, this is something you'd see in a movie that's just not a superhero movie.
Thing, real quick, that pisses me off sometimes about Hollywood, because you just said it, like, you didn't know if that scene was in any other drama about any other kid, Oscar. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Easy. Done. A nomination at the very least. And this movie will get approximately 0% unless like some of the visual effects or sound categories.
But this is also one of the first time
they hate life sometimes.
True. But this is also the first time, like, for myself anyway, like, I've felt this way about an MCU movie, to where it's like, it really did go to that level of Oscar, worthy for certain reasons, definitely. And it's great filmmaking right here. And then when
reminded me of Fantastic Beasts, not gonna lie, but better. Like, I was like, this is what I wish would have gone down in Fantastic Beasts. And I swear to God, who do I have to call to ensure this? But like, I've seen other people talk about it. A fear that I have is that they might Fantastic Beasts this whole thing, where like, what if in the next movie they just, like, in the first 20 minutes MJ figures it out, and it's or you know what I mean, and it was for nothing. I can't. Don't do that.
Well, I have a theory about what's going to happen next, but the thing is like, the chemistry.
This is what that moment in Fantastic Beasts wanted to be.
Oh, I agree.
Was this?
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with that point. And but the they're talking. The chemistry's back on. They're finishing each other's sentences in a cool way. By the way, it's not like done in a cheesy way. It felt real, and that chemistry and that bond, the love is just there for each other. And then she says, "This is the moment that really got me. Is there anything else that you want to say before because he gets his coffee and he goes, he decides this is the big decision. He says, no. And he leaves.
Because also, I really think MJ's might just figure it out. Also, because she says as much. She says, like, you better come find me, because I'm just gonna figure it out again if you don't. Like, the way, I mean, there's a lot of the chemistry and stuff too, but the way she was looking at him, the way they were talking, it very much seemed like the wheels were turning in her head, that this was not the first time she has seen this person. I think that thought popped into her head while they were talking.
God. So as a fan of these people and his characters, and my broken heart wants me to, say that's what's going to happen. But as a beautiful, very kind of artsy route of a finale, I'm like, this was so good. And it was the most Peter Parker we've ever seen Tom Holland, because that decision makes
I think it was the acting. It was really, I think, Zendaya's acting.
Yeah.
Like it was in her eyes and the way she was doing it that you could
But
tell
that's what's
somewhere
so
in the
brilliant.
back of her brain. She was like, who is this kid though?
But that's what's so brilliant about her.
And again, yeah, it's the
performer.
brilliance of it.
But as a performer, it's what's so great about her too. They play off each other that well, and you know they just made sure that this moment was going to work emotionally. And I'm telling you, I felt some type of way after coming out of this, and just like, man, I cried when I got home, you know, because I didn't know how to feel. I know these are not real characters, but like I'm sitting there like Peter Parker's like he's out there, he's alone, and especially when you think of the shot of him walking into the apartment and there's nobody there. It's like he's by himself, and he's such a good person. He doesn't deserve that, you know, because he did the best thing possible for his friends, and that was the most heroic move he's ever made. Was just him deciding they don't need me. Me coming into their lives causes a lot of problems, and that's what Peter Parker. It was the most unselfish decision ever, but that also just makes it that much more heroic. And it
was the right decision, and it was the right decision though. And in that moment,
the movie decides we're not going to stop there. We're going to give you the scene with him and Happy, and Happy's not even going to know who he is, and it's just like it breaks you. It breaks you.
I did think for a moment when he walked up that Happy for some reason was gonna know. I don't know. For some reason, I don't know if it was something about what Jon Favreau was doing with his face. I don't know. But I was too.
Because then when he's like, how did you know her? I was like, oh shit, he doesn't know who he is either. You know, I agree.
Also, I was like, oh yeah. I didn't mean. Part of me, I guess. I mean, you're looking at someone's grave, but I'm like, how do you know he knew her?
Yeah,
like,
you think about that too. Yeah,
yeah. I think that might have ticked that off for me in my brain.
And some people could look at that as a flawed nitpick, but I don't know. I just thought like it just worked for what they were going for, and you know, for me, like the movie broke me as like it broke my heart, you know. But that's art, man. That's what movies are made for, is to make you think and to make you. It is that's there really, to move you. And. You know, but
I respect it a lot more too, because a lot of the times why I do like Infinity War a little bit more than I like Endgame, and a part of it is because it doesn't have a happy ending. The heroes lose at the end.
I can see that.
They just lose. The movie ends and they lose bad, they lose hard. I respect that so much, and that is so wonderful.
I understand.
And same with this movie. Like, I mean, things aren't as bad. He didn't lose that hard. He didn't, you know, kill half of everything, you know. But
on the same hand, he kind of did though,
because he lost everything. He lost all his people.
On the same hand, it's like this to me, because it is so personal to Peter. It does break me that much more, though, you know, because it's such a personal thing, and it makes you think of your own friendships, you know, and in your real life, and then like think about like, you know, how important it is to hold on to your friends. You know, this movie made me think about that in so many good ways that I can't really compare it to any other MCU movie in terms of how it moved me emotionally, you know, and that's something that
honestly, I don't think this is like any other MCU movie. Infinity War, Endgame, and No Way Home are, and not to say that they're all like each other, but they're all different in different ways, but they are each unlike any movie I had ever seen before in my entire life.
Sure, 100%. I'll agree with that point completely. But yeah, I guess in a way though too, on the same hand, like this did what I kind of wished like Infinity War had done for me. Like, even though like I was very surprised when I saw the ending of Infinity War, I was like, this is the Marvel fake death universe, they're all coming back. I don't know how you come back from this. This is one of those endings that like it kind of makes me think, like, I don't know how he comes back from this. I don't know how you make him, you know, make them remember. Like, maybe there's a way. I'm sure there probably is, but you don't know.
I really think MJ's is going to figure it out and tell Ned.
It would be cool.
That feels right in my bones. I'm not right away.
I don't mind it.
Well, we'll get to. I also have theories on what I think is going to happen.
That's the other
in
thing.
A future Tom Holland trilogy.
That's the other thing, is like if she does figure it out and like everything's okay, it's not going to feel cheap. It's going to feel triumphant. It's
going to be impressive.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's not going to feel cheap this time, right? Like, like while as fan servicey and as great as that Endgame moment was when they all came back, all the heroes. There's a cheapness to it. In my mind, I felt like, well, yeah, I knew they were all going to come back. They were, you know, this is not going to feel cheap, you know. when she figures that out. That's
Right.
going to feel like we really now, as audience members, we feel like all hope is lost for Peter. The ending, though, let's talk about the very end when he's swinging around New York and he's Spider-Man again, and just the shot of him in the
Christmas
snow
time.
and oh my gosh,
that costume was gorgeous.
Oh, yes, it was.
It looked like metallic almost to me. I loved it.
Yes, it was. And
it's like shiny.
Now we know. This is where we really know this was the origin story of Spider-Man.
And that was where it I was, from the moment Aunt May died until then, I was like, is this his origin story, I think. And then that moment happened, I was like, wow, this was his origin. It was the whole time. The whole time.
The movie is gorgeous for that reason, that it just makes it his origin story.
That whole sequence, oh my God. That whole of him flying through the snow and everything, that was gorgeous,
beautifully shot. It really was, like the atmosphere of it all, and just it was great. And it just made me that was really like, okay, this movie was a love letter to all of us fans, you know, and just
because as someone who especially grew up with Tobey's movies, that's what really gets me. Spider-Man going through New York City, that's the stuff that's like gonna get me.
And it was the thing that's just been missing this whole time, that we thought was missing, but like now we just go back and we're like, oh my God, I respect it, I think, you know, because it's like now we're really getting it. So talking about the post-credit scene for a sec, because the mid-credit scene,
one,
Venom, which
I go back and forth, man.
Me too.
I don't know how I feel about it.
I don't love the scene, but I'll tell you what I like about it. Like, as a scene as a whole, I don't love it. I think it's kind of weird, and you know, just like
I know exactly what they were trying to do. I just didn't like how they did it.
Sure, but once you see the symbiote at the end,
and then I was like, oh,
it means a lot, actually.
It made it all click.
So
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine, because so now what we have is I'm just convinced Tom Hardy was drunk at a bar somewhere, getting drunk at a bar, and they just came with the camera and was like, hey, pretend you're Eddie Brock for a sec. Or they just told the bartender,
I kept expecting like Doctor Strange or someone to show up. I was like, is this really it? We're really watching him just get drunk at a bar right now? That's the scene.
So before we talk about the end credit scene, let me say this, because this is my theory of where it goes.
Okay.
For me, this is how I honestly feel like it goes. Because what this did brilliantly, while I don't like it as a scene, what it did do brilliantly is it told you Tom Holland is in the MCU. Tom Holland is going to fight Venom. Kevin Feige is now confirmed. We're doing another MCU movie with Tom.
Yeah.
We're setting that up with Amy Pascal.
And Venom will be involved.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have that now. So now we know the Sonyverse. So this is the interesting thing. The Sonyverse now has their own universe, which Venom has now gone back to, or the Eddie Brock or the Tom Hardy Venom has now gone back to the Sonyverse, where Morbius is going to be and all that. I know this sounds like a stretch, but I think this is where it's going. Because Sonyverse does not have a Spider-Man yet, but they have all the villains.
Yeah.
I think it's Andrew. I think Andrew Garfield is Sony's Spider-Man.
That would be everything.
And I'll tell you what other piece of that makes sense, or another piece that makes sense from the Morbius trailer.
And I can tell you right now, like without even looking at anything, these numbers right now and this hype and this amount of praise, these Rotten Tomatoes scores, there is not a shot in hell that Sony is not calling Andrew Garfield every 5 minutes, trying to get him booked for another movie.
Yep. And I'm telling you right now,
there's no way that's not happening.
Because in the Morbius trailer, the Oscorp building is the one from Andrew's universe. If the painting of Spider-Man behind Morbius is the Andrew painting.
That would make a lot of sense.
I promise, I feel this in my gut, is Sony's Spider-Man. Sony is going to make Spider-Man movies. It's going to be in a different universe. So the Amazing Spider-Man 3, I think, is going to be what we're getting next with Andrew and Venom. Eddie Brock's Venom and Morbius and whoever the hell else wants to show up. But Tom Holland will continue in this universe with his own Venom.
Right, yeah.
And I don't think they're in the business of getting rid of Tom Holland yet. I think we're still going.
I think there is going to be another trilogy. I really think there is. With this ending, come on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think Tom Holland, it's not over. And this movie's we're gonna take a breather. I definitely think that. I think as far as Tom Holland goes, we're gonna take
Might
a
be
breather.
a minute. Yeah.
We're definitely gonna take a breather on the Tom Holland side, but it's okay because Sony, I think, is gonna have Andrew movies coming out. And I'm not going to be surprised at all when Andrew shows up in Morbius, if that happens.
Ooh.
Because
that would be everything.
Come on, it's going for it.
Wow.
I think Andrew is Sony's.
I buy that. That seems plausible to me.
They're going to, and now it works because this movie just made it work. Now you know, because it's been brought up so many times, there are Spider-Man in different universes. That's just how it is. And now Sony's universe is going to take Andrew, and they're going to continue with him. Not to mention, look at the reception that Andrew had from this. Like, I've heard a lot of people say, you know what? I'm not a fan of Amazing Spider-Man, but Andrew Garfield was a highlight in this movie. And so you make him right.
That's
work. The other thing I think about is the Venom movies in general. Look at the Venom movies. Do you think they feel like the Tom Holland universe? To me, they feel a little bit more like Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man universe.
You make a valid, correct point.
100%. I know I do because, like, when I watched Venom for the first time,
like it took me a second. I was like, oh.
When I watched Venom for the first time, I was like, you know what part of my problem is this feels a little bit more like Amazing Spider-Man than anything else.
No,
like
I think
that
you're
universe.
Right. Yeah.
So it just makes sense that Andrew and trust me when I say this has been planned for a while. Like, I think they know what they're doing. And I think Andrew is going to be Sony's Spider-Man. And I think that's an exciting thing. Like, you know, but worst case scenario, they make another bad Andrew Garfield movie. And like, it's like, okay, because the last two weren't that great anyway, you know? So like you have that, like, I like them, but for my own personal reasons, like mostly because of Andrew, but best case scenario, they make a great one again, you know, and it gets everybody back on board. But at least at that point, we also have Tom Holland in the MCU still, and we can continue that. And I love that because it makes sense to me because Sony and Disney had to come to a compromise. What do you think it was? It had to be that. Come on. It makes sense.
Yeah.
The same way I'm convinced, and we'll get into this, Tobey Maguire is in the Multiverse of Madness movie because Sam Raimi's directing it. I still don't. It's a multiverse movie.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't Tobey team back up with him?
That would be cool.
What's Tobey doing? Nothing. He's not.
I think I think he's one of those famous people that like he loves acting. He loves the performance, but he does not like being a celebrity. And I think he's like he understands that like if he's gonna do these huge movies, with huge Marvel movie comes great celebrity.
Right.
Like, and he just is like, listen.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with all the paparazzi all the time. So I'm just going to chill and not put my face out there.
Right.
That's what it looks like to me.
Why I probably think if he shows up in Multiverse of Madness, it'll be his last appearance as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be brief. But I think he is in it because I think it's the Sam Raimi of it all. He would want to team back up with them. And they set up something really great here. So I think that, and also, they know Spider-Man. They know Spider-Man. They don't know who Peter Parker is, so they don't know who this Peter Parker is. That was what the spell did.
Right.
So if you're going to call upon a Spider-Man, it would probably be a different one. Like, Strange will probably call the Tobey one, because that doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't remember Tobey, right? I mean, I don't know. But that's just a guess. It's just
did he ever? I don't know.
They never clarified it, but that's just my thinking. That's my line of thinking. Maybe that Tobey Spider-Man, I think he does show up in Multiverse of Madness. And I think it'll probably be his last appearance as Spider-Man. It would be great. But I also think Andrew is Sony's Spider-Man. I think that they're going to continue. At least make one more. And it's going to be him, Venom, Morbius. It'll be the big whatever with Andrew.
I just think if not, I also saw a thing that's like on, I think it was on TikTok. It was like, you know what would be so funny if this just kept going until literally the man dies, that he just keeps denying the fact that he was in this movie.
Right.
Like it just keeps going. Like in 5 years from now, they'll show like a clip of him in it, and he'll be like, the CGI is wild nowadays. Like Photoshop effects are phenomenal.
Right.
I love Tom Holland. I don't know if I want those movies, if they want to do anything, they can, but I don't know anything. Like to the day he dies. That would be pretty epic.
Well,
and that's a very Andrew Garfield thing.
I think it
if
would
I know
work.
Andrew Garfield, that sounds like a thing he would do.
He had an interview yesterday and never brought it up once,
admit.
by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
He had an interview yesterday, never brought it up once.
Like, we'll keep asking him and he'll keep being like, weird.
Yeah. I
wild.
think so.
Yeah.
Until
news to me.
Until we get Amazing Spider-Man 3. That's the only thing I think then he'll go out and promote it. But
right.
But I think that he is Sony's Spider-Man now. I think that that's who they're going to use, and it makes sense. And the other reason it makes sense is because Disney and Sony, they want to build on this momentum. They do. They're both going to try to build on it, and they've come to an agreement. I guarantee it. But outside the fact that this movie just left us so heartbroken and with many questions and all that kind of stuff, and if we're going to continue and all that, which one more thing about the ending, if they do continue, great. But if they don't, this finale works. You know,
it really does.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter. But that's just a thought. Last thing.
Your predictions,
Last thing. Post-credit scene. Doctor Strange. The Multiverse
You mean the
Madness
teaser trailer for Multiverse
Madness? Very
Madness?
unexpected, by the way. I did not think we were going to get a full trailer.
I was shook. I looked to my dad. I was sitting next to him, and I was like, "They're playing a trailer. It's
a trailer.
This is a trailer."
Yeah.
That was insane.
So
I had always had a dream of, like, it'd be really cool if like a big movie one day like just randomly premiered like a new trailer on the Thursday night that it came out, and there was like you were seeing like episode 8, Star Wars episode 8, and then there was just like a Rise of Skywalker trailer before it. Like I always thought something like that would be really epic. So I was like, this was close. This was close. This was close enough.
Well, Captain America.
I take what I can get.
Captain America did it when they did the Avengers trailer.
Oh, did it?
At the end of Captain America, the first movie. Yeah. So they've done it before.
I didn't see that I didn't see the first Captain America in theaters.
So they've done this before, but like I think like now, but Captain America: The First Avenger wasn't nearly as big of a movie as this. Like, let's be real. Yeah. And Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. So first of all, the trailer, the Wanda exchange was great. I was happy to see her again.
That. Yep.
It was amazing. It was cool to see. So if anybody predicted she was in the movie, I'm not going to say you were wrong, because she technically was.
Also, she does not look like she's the villain of this movie. That was a big thing we were all talking about. Maybe, like, is she the villain or not?
Maybe, but maybe
she did not read villain to me. She very much seemed like second banana. You know what I mean?
But I'll say this: she also kind of seems in the middle still to me. Like, I'm not saying she is the villain, but she does seem like
she could still turn. Because she knows her children may or may not still be out there.
And also,
that can be used against her very easily.
So the first thing is, we're getting 2 Doctor Stranges in this, confirmed. It's happening. And I can't wait, because I can't wait to see.
Finish What If.
Benedict's going to have so much fun playing this. Evil Doctor Strange. It's going to be amazing. And I love this aspect, this like horror aspect.
He has had practice.
Yeah. It's delivering on the promise of the horror, though, because it's like, we're going to get this very scary Doctor Strange.
That dude's going to fuck some shit up for him, man.
Yeah.
Like, even seeing the glimpse of Evil Strange, you're like, this dude.
Yeah.
This dude's here to mess him up.
Can't wait to see what Benedict Cumberbatch does with that. I think he's going to give an amazing performance in that. But then
it got pushed back. It was supposed to come out in March. Is it not like May or something now?
I think it's May. Like it's May now. It is May now.
So far away.
I know. But at least we got a teaser. To build up the hype.
Yeah.
But
and we'll get a full length trailer eventually. Yeah.
Here's my thing with Wanda, though. We see Wanda normal, but then we see her later in her full on shit. And we also saw that
fabulous, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. But we also saw that.
I love her costume.
We also saw that in the post-credit scene for WandaVision. Is that 2 Wandas? It's 2 different Wandas, I'm starting to feel like.
It could be.
Because they show them in the exact same moment. There's one normal looking Wanda sitting outside on the cabin, and then there's the Wanda.
Well, yeah, no, I think the Wanda, and she was in like that crisscross levitating kind of a thing. I think when they showed her in her costume.
Yeah. Yep.
Also, so yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So maybe it's 2 different Wandas too. We just don't know yet. So that's a possibility.
Ooh, yeah, the 2 Wandas and the 2 Strange.
Evil Wanda, good Wanda, and Evil Strange, good Strange. I think that would be an amazing movie. It
I
writes
think
itself.
I think you may or may not have just spoiled Multiverse of Madness for many of us,
It
because
writes
the moment I
itself.
thought about it, I was like, you know what? Yeah, if there's evil Strange, why would there not also be the evil Wanda? And they talk about fucking some shit up, bro. That produces some
Yeah,
scary horror movie things that they have been saying
yeah.
are in this movie. Talk of like, you know what I mean? Because for a while I was like, okay, how scary is this movie going to be? Like you're saying it's a horror movie.
It looks freaky.
I think it's still going to
It
be
looks
like a for
freaky.
kids horror
Sure,
movie,
it looks
but
freaky.
the possibility of evil Strange and evil
Oh
Wanda,
yeah, yeah. That takes it to the next level. I think it writes itself.
that is promising right there.
Writes itself. I think it does, and I
Yeah.
think it gives these brilliant actors a chance to perform in ways that they
Mhm.
haven't in the MCU too. So I think
And it
that's
makes
the
so
other
much
great thing about
sense.
it.
Yeah.
Does it just adds
And
up with the
literally two of
post
the
credit.
best actors in the MCU, honestly, too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
go back because in the WandaVision post credit scene, a lot of people said that was Strange. I don't think so. I think it was Evil Strange going to see Evil Wanda. Maybe that's kind of
Mm,
where I'm at. Yeah, so that makes more sense to me.
maybe.
That lines up
Yeah.
more to me.
Hmm.
So maybe that's what we're getting at. So I don't know because Elizabeth
Yeah.
Olsen is sitting outside in the log cabin in the post
Hmm.
credit scene. She's just sitting there, and then they zoom into the cabin, and then there's the other Wanda conjuring up the children
Yeah.
or whatever the fuck she's doing, which could be really bad for everybody.
Hmm.
So I think it writes
Yeah.
itself, and I think that they're going to be like outnumbered by themselves, and then you get Toby who's going to like even out the odds for them, or not even them out, but
Yeah.
like make them win. So Toby's going to come in and
Hmm.
help them. That's my prediction so far. That's where I'm at with it, but I don't know where are you at
Checks
with all
out so
this. I
far.
mean, give us your full thoughts of everything at the end and all that. I mean, where are you going? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, well, I got some predictions for where I think this is gonna go. Also, but I mean, like, I mean, like I said at the beginning, this movie was everything. I loved it. I loved every single person who was in it. They all brought their A game. Every
yeah,
single section was absolutely phenomenal. It was a comic book come to life in the most wonderful way. It was phenomenal storytelling that was pulled off incredibly with humor and heart
yeah,
and everything. There are no words. Like I've said all that I've said. It was absolutely incredible.
yeah.
I do think though, what I'm thinking is we're about to get college Peter Parker in a trilogy. So if they do
That makes
another
sense.
trilogy, I see it being a college type of a thing. And I also see it being more of like the typical, because now we've seen his origin story. I think now we're going to start kind of walking and seeing Tom Holland do the typical kind of Peter Parker things that we're used to, like going to class,
I
talking to
agree.
professors. Maybe we see this version's Doc Ock and he's like, wait, you said your name was Dr. Otto
Right.
Octavius, and he's
I
like
agree with
freaked
that.
out or something. Maybe he like Gwen Stacy shows up and is a college student. Maybe we see like Harry Osborn show up and he befriends them because he's far away from Ned and MJ, but he
Right.
still wants friends. So that becomes a trio situation.
Right.
I could see like him maybe working at the Daily Bugle I don't know why he would want to, but maybe he's, you know what, actually probably the same reason. Like he probably needs a bunch of money and they're like, well, pictures of Spider-Man for a ton of money. And since nobody knows who Peter Parker is, he could work for the Daily Bugle if he wanted to.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a whole thing. And I don't want to say like invert, because I don't think what we've seen is like necessarily an inversion of Peter Parker's origin story. But I do think it's going to be kind of that, like these three movies were were the MCU's take on his origin story. And the next three, I think, are going to be his like that kind of the things we usually see in the Spider-Man movie,
Right.
of that kind of the growing up of Peter Parker, like as an adult, is where we're going to go next.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's a pretty natural direction.
I mean, a lot of people say like if we do get Young Avengers or something, he really could be the leader of it. And I think like if he is a little bit older and like we have him in college and stuff and kind of working out there, it could weave in, like that could be when we have the next big Avengers movie, something
definitely
like that.
I agree with you. I think that for sure. Like it's gonna be the now we're gonna get the Peter that we just all knew and love in the first place, and like this movie just set that up. It just naturally went into that. If Tom
gave
Holland
him
signs the
permission
contract.
fully. Yeah.
And I don't know why Tom Holland wouldn't sign the contract at this point. I just think it's
Yeah.
it's where he's meant to be, I feel like.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Look, guys.
And it's a fact too that
go
like
ahead.
oh sorry, real quick, but like the age thing too, where you see him in Civil War, and sometimes I think about how like we're meant to see like that literal aged version of Tom Holland is what he is supposed to be throughout pretty much this whole thing. Like maybe like a year or two older
Yeah.
in No Way Home. But he just like he looks so young and baby faced in that in Civil War when you see him for the first time. And it's just kind of, because that's the problem with aging or casting, younger people and stuff,
Right.
that they are going to age up. And that is why like a lot of times they cast 35-year-olds as 17-year-olds, but
I'll tell you,
because they know
McGuire was
their
50
looks not going to change. But yeah, but they have that right. Yeah. Well, no, it's like 45.
Yeah, but still, he was old.
Like
he was
40,
old as fuck.
Something. He's like something like that.
Yeah.
He was a little old. But I also, real quick while we're here, I like that they played him old too. They didn't try to make him
good
younger. They said
100%.
no, he is about 45 years old and has that, because again, he has that seniority, so it just easily it blends in, so everything mushes together perfectly.
That's the other thing that made me think about Andrew's whole thing, is because it seemed like they took Andrew right where Amazing Spider-Man 2 ended, in a way.
A little bit, yeah.
As to where like Toby got taken out of a time where he was way more experienced, but Andrew seemed like he came right out of the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2.
He wasn't that far removed.
No. Yeah. So so it makes me wonder, like, I think they kept it open to where like maybe we can make Andrew our Spider-Man, so I love that. Yeah, it's a good stuff, but I'm so excited. I can't wait for what the future holds. But look, guys, that's it. It happened. It doesn't feel like it happened, but it happened. I still can't wrap my head around it. I need to see it a fourth time too. But I'm excited, and Samee, great that you're here. I'm so glad I got to do this with you.
This was great.
It was awesome.
It was so much fun.
I know.
I loved it.
So glad we made this work. And yeah, guys. Listen. So that's it. And thank you guys for joining. And please like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave feedback in the comment sections, share this with your friends. Let us know what you thought of Spider-Man: No Way Home. I hope you have seen the movie if you're still here, and because we just gave everything away. But yes, Samee, where can people find you before we take off here?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Samee Ramirez 14. I'm on Twitter at Samee Ramirez, and hanging around the internet.
Hell yeah,
that's where I am.
Hell yeah, and yeah, mark my words, Samee will be back for something. We will have her back on again. I doubt this is the last time you see her. So yeah, I can't wait for that. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining again. This has been so much fun. I'm glad we all made it together, here as movie fans, and it's just been great. So yeah, that's been our spoiler discussion of Spider-Man: No Way Home. Next week we'll get back into the normal routine of things, I think, for the show. And yeah, so thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. You have a good night. Later.